Commissioner Simmons back there. I said Commissioner Simmons back there.
Yeah, I see him.
All this good stuff here.
We're now live.
All right. Thank you, Dwayne. Welcome everyone to our meeting on the 9/16th board meeting, 9 a.m. Appreciate each one being here. As always, we ask that you take a second and put your phone on silent or vibrate. I appreciate it. Also, we always open up in a word of prayer, which will be opened by Dwayne. And also the pledge, which will be by Public Service Commissioner Stamps. We appreciate him leading us in his pledge as well. So if you would, please stand for the invocation.
You guys pray with me, please. Heavenly Father, as we bow before you this morning, God, we first of all just want to thank you for waking us up this morning, God, for giving us another day. God, we thank you for the blessings you pour out on our lives, God, even those that we take for granted. We ask you forgive us for taking them for granted, and ask you for your guidance in this meeting, God, that you would be here with us, and every decision that's made this morning, God, will be pleasing to you and be in accordance with your will for the county. Just forgive us where we fail you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Wayne. Commissioner?
Good morning. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Lott, I think you're first on the...
Yes, Mr. President, you should have before you the September the 3rd board minutes. I would ask if there are no changes, the board please approve said minutes.
Okay, are there any changes board members would like to make? If not, do I have a motion for approval?
I'll move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, second from Supervisor Baxter. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, we are honored this morning to have a couple of elected officials, public service officials with us this morning. Public Service Commissioner Stamps and our Highway Commissioner Simmons. We appreciate both of y'all coming up and give y'all some time to address the board. Commissioner Stamps, please come up and tell us what's going on the...
Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm just happy that y'all came to see me today. It's such a warm welcome here in Madison County. I appreciate y'all for coming out. Commissioner Simmons has a check.
Yeah.
We don't dole out checks over at the Public Service Commission. So
We will make sure we ask him for it when he comes up.
Well, I bring you greetings from your Public Service Commission. For those who don't know, the Public Service Commission is a 3-member body, and we regulate all of the investor-owned utilities across the state. Commissioner Carr, Commissioner Brown are wonderful brothers to work with. Commissioner Brown and I served in the legislature together, and Commissioner Carr is coming up to speed rather fast. And we hit the ground running, as you know, right here in Madison County, working in our industrial parks. One of our major priorities is getting all of our industrial parks across all 22 counties up to speed. We have several industrial parks across this state that don't have the proper utilities in place to even attract jobs, even make the industrial parks marketable. You know, the work that y'all have done is a blueprint that the whole state can follow. Because once you get your commercial corridors and area, once you get your industrial parks marketable, now you can go out and solicit big business. And I just want to commend the Madison County Board of Supervisors and everybody who played a part working with MDA to work through the Amazon deal. That was a very critical piece of a critical time period for us. We led the way in opening our state up to a new industry. We've done car plants before. We've done all other kinds of economic development, but that one is going to lead to probably about 6 of those across the state. And but it would not have happened without the hard work of the folks in this room, because economic development is a quiet game before it becomes a loud game. And the work y'all did keeping quiet on it and making sure you were crossing your I's and dotting your T's is commendable for a Board of Supervisors. And when you go to the Board of Supervisors conference, echo what it takes to do that to other communities, because the work y'all are doing here definitely can reverberate around the state. My focus on economic development is because utilities drive most economic development. The largest economic developers in this state are Entergy and Mississippi Power, and we regulate those institutions. And we're going to continue to regulate them in such a way to spur more economic development. We set a pretty audacious goal a year ago when we were campaigning for this position to create 100,000 jobs. And some folks said, that sounds pretty out there. Well, we came out the gate and created 10,000 jobs in the first month. So working with Governor Reeves and MDA, we're going to continue to move forward and chomp that goal down, hopefully to surpass it in the next 8 years, to have to reset the goal. But we have to create more jobs in this state and more opportunities for our young people to stay here if we're going to eliminate the brain drain that we have. One other focus in economic development we're moving towards is quality high-density housing. Most of our young people, they leave not because they just want to go. We don't have enough high-density quality housing. These young folks, they want a condo and a coffee shop and a dog they can put in their purse. Well, we don't buy dogs and purses, but we need to provide those amenities that they're going to the Dallas and the Nashville and the Atlanta for. They're not going there buying houses. Most 18 to 35-year-olds can't afford to buy a house, but they want a urban kind of feeling. They want to be able to live a lifestyle that they live, in other places. They want to do it here, and so we got to provide that for them. I know a lot of folks ask us about energy production. In our lane, we focus on natural gas and nuclear are our staples. I want to be in this position a long enough time to be able to add on to the Grand Gulf Nuclear Power Plant. And it's going to take several of the hyperscalers and the data centers to pay for that. I want to safeguard the ratepayers of Mississippi by getting as many of these tech companies to buy that infrastructure. Everything that Amazon buys, that means that you don't have to buy it. Everything that $1 billion that they're spending in Washington County to build a new natural gas fire plant, that means that Energy didn't have to charge you that $1 billion to do that. So we can get a few more of those kinds of industries in place that can spur the economic development necessary to finance those things and keep the rate base secure. A lot of folks ask me about renewables. I'm an all of the above energy producer supporter, but I believe we must do it prudent. I'm not just, pro or anti, I'm more prudent. So if it's natural gas, it needs to be prudent. If it's nuclear, it needs to be prudent. And if it's solar or the other renewables, it just needs to be done prudently. I know a lot of people feel different ways about solar and those kinds of things, and I do too. I got a lot of questions about it as well. One of the things we've identified is that when we issue a permit for someone to do a solar facility, right now, state law doesn't require them to come back to the commission if they sell it. So that means that over the course of a life cycle, you could end up with different landowners because the landowner could sell his land and the leaseor who's building the solar operation could sell that lease without having to come back to the Public Service Commission for any kind of approval or vetting or any of that. So we're going to look to change a few state laws to make sure that we're prudent when it comes to regulating solar in the state. And lastly, we're going to make sure we keep governing the way we've been doing. We're going to keep working hard, keep creating jobs, and keep shoring up our industrial parks and commercial areas across the state. So I just want to say thank you for the hard work you've done. We appreciate it, and we're going to continue to work hard for you to produce more jobs and opportunities here in Madison County. And I yield for any questions.
Commissioner, we appreciate you working with us, Madison County, because we're definitely growing, and it's good for the county, it's good for the state as well. And we appreciate you coming this morning and just giving us a quick update, but we look forward to continue to working with you, on those renewable energy sources as well. And appreciate your colleague there, or Jared Morrison coming with you, because he's former supervisor in Rankin County. We all know him well. And appreciate him coming with you as well. But most of all, we appreciate you coming to give us an update.
I appreciate the opportunity. Again, we're going to continue to work hard in natural gas and nuclear are my core productions. That's my bread and butter. And we're going to keep building that infrastructure out. And also, one thing I didn't mention, natural gas expansion. We have to expand the natural gas footprint further than where it is. You can literally lift people out of poverty by getting them off propane and getting them to natural gas. We have to expand that natural gas piped footprint all across Madison County, because that's money they could be putting back in the economy. You know, those little bottles in folks' backyard, I know there's good people in that industry, but we need more natural gas in our rural areas.
Right.
And so those are our focuses. I got a great team. Former Supervisor Jared Morrison, he spent 16 years on the Rankin County Board of Supervisors, and I just couldn't let him retire. I said, nah, there's a space for you at the state level to offer that same relationship building, that same attention to detail that and the experience he's had over in Rankin County. He's helping a lot of counties out. So we appreciate him and the rest of our team for continuing to move forward.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next up, we would like to bring our Commissioner Simmons. Commissioner, he's put you on the spot now.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman,
Good morning.
members of the board, and all of the county officials. My good friend, Commissioner Stamps. Tell Commissioner Stamps to go on and get all the utilities moved on 463 and Stribbling Road so we can build it.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, we work real close with the commissioner and the utilities folks, because every time we build a right-of-way somewhere, we have to deal with utilities, and we want to thank them for being cooperative and working to help us make that work. I had planned to be with you about 30 minutes. With all of the crowds you have, I know that you're going to be busy, so I'm going to get right to what I want to say to you and get out of here.
Thank you for that.
Okay. Again, let me thank you for allowing me to come. You are the richest county. I represent 22 counties and 82 counties in the state, and I'm told that you're the richest county in the state of Mississippi. So let me.
Don't say that, Commissioner.
Don't say that.
Some of my constituents listen, they don't want to hear that.
Okay. Well, but we are working real closely with you, and one of the things that I'm really happy about is the fact that we're able to work with you and what you're doing in building. And one of the projects that you just moved and gave a contract to Mr. Hempfield, Bozeman Road, we are real pleased with that, to be working with you as a partner. That's a $38 million project, and we're just glad to be there to assist you with it. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for making that happen. The other big project that we'll continue to work on, Reunion, and the widening of Interstate 55. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to come this morning, to say to you that we have that high on our priority list, but just like all the other projects, we need money. So we come to you this morning thanking you for your support, but also saying to you to help us move and work with the legislature. We're very pleased with what Governor Reeves, the Lieutenant Governor Holzman, as well as the Speaker White, have done, and all of the legislators in supporting what we have done and helping us get money. This past year, we received $250 million in capacity projects. And those two projects, the $250 million, basically is going to be expended to complete projects up in the Northern District, Highway 15 and Interstate 55. Well, I'm pleased to report to you that the next project, according to what we have in our plan, will be your widening of your project here, but we got to get money from the state legislature. So we want you to give thanks to the legislature when you see them for their support of giving us, over the past 3 years, about $785 million for capacity projects. But we really need recurring dollars. We need recurring dollars to make it work. We want you to encourage them, but we don't want you to just say, give us $130 million for Madison County. Say to them is what we're saying, is that we need monies to take care of the Mississippi highways and capacity projects throughout. And just like we are rolling down from DeSoto County and coming to Madison County, we have other places we need to go. So the recurring dollars is what we are asking our state legislature to give us. We did a good job in putting together some programs in 2018 when Governor Bryant called a special session. Those projects, both programs included the lottery, the ERBF program, which you benefit from, $250 million. And then since that time, the legislature has continued to put over $400 million into that program. Also, the divergent use tax is one of the good programs that we put in place because you here in Madison County receive 2 payments each year. I think you may have gotten over $7 million. Madison, Ridgeland have gotten around $6 or $7 million. So it's a good program for the Kansas municipalities. One of the ways that the legislature can help us is put us in a similar program where we, MDOT, get monies on a recurring basis. In addition to that, they can look at other things like electric and hybrid vehicles, going to the fuel pump. We got to have money. So again, we want to thank you for what you're doing, and just remember us as a partner when you're talking to the legislature. And hopefully, this coming session, when the legislature come in, we will see dollars coming in to the Department of Transportation that we are going to be able to take the $130+ million that we need to take care of this project here. You are growing county. You are getting jobs coming from all over the place, as Commissioner Stamps indicated, and we got to grow with you. Highway 463 and Stribling Road is a good example. And over there on that project, where we are with that project at this particular point, we're going to put what we call a green T into that intersection, and it's going to allow the southern traffic going south to continue to flow, which is going to help you tremendously because of the school system out there. And then the other traffic to merge, and only one direction will have to actually come to a stop. That's going to be good for improving that highway because we can't widen it anymore because of the development that's taking place on it. So once again, thank you. We always look forward to working with you because you are very supportive and cooperating with what we're doing. And anything that we can do to help you, please feel free to give us a call. We're very fortunate to have good leadership in Brad White and our other 2 commissioners, Commissioner Busby and Commissioner Caldwell. So once again, thank you.
Commissioner, we appreciate you working with us as well. We've worked very close, this board has, with you and your staff. Been very helpful. You're one of the ones that actually helped us to get the bridge across the interstate that's being built now, from the east side to the west side of Madison County, Highway 51 to Bozeman Road. We appreciate that, and really appreciate you stepping up and coming on board with us on widening the interstate, because I understand we're next in line, Madison County is, on monies that the legislature hopefully will put in the budget to be able to get started on widening of the interstate, I-55 from 463 to Gluckstadt, to where we can actually put the ramps on as well during that time. And that's huge for us to help move traffic to the interstate. And we appreciate your leadership with this board and working along beside us to make that happen.
Well, that project is #1 for me, the commissioner of the Central District, but it's actually #1 for the state.
It is.
So of all of the projects in the state of Mississippi, this project here in Madison County will be the next one that we put dollars into. We just need to get the money.
That's right. I think it's, $150, $200 million.
Yes, sir.
So in that range.
And we don't need to delay it because costs keep going up.
That's right. You're exactly right. But we don't need to delay it as well because in Madison County, it's going to help us move traffic tremendously.
No question.
Appreciate you always coming.
Supervisor Griffin, we got your highway completed, I believe, in Madison County, Highway 16.
Yeah, Highway 16, but when you give, you never get enough. Now, my next question is on widening or 4-laning Highway 16 from Canton to Carthage. I'd be satisfied with that. But going all the way to Philadelphia would be the best. You got any information on that?
That's part of the thing that we're looking at. We haven't put it into the 3-year plan. So as a result of that, we aren't doing any kind of pre-construction on it other than we hired an engineering firm to take a look at how we can enhance it. Some of our highways now going forward, we won't necessarily 4-lane all over the way. We'll look at 3-laning and other kind of things that we need to do in order to enhance it and get it where we need it for safety due to the amount of traffic that we have on it. So we have an engineering firm that's looking at that to tell us where we need to go with it.
All right, sound great.
Commissioner Simmons.
Highway 51. There's a lot of interest in seeing if we can
expand Highway 51 all the way from the Madison where it stops to Canton, which would open up and give a lot of traffic some relief, especially around Yandle Road and beyond. Do we have anything working on that?
We have a paving project moving in that direction, going down. And also, I believe it's 5 bridges on 51. It may not be in that particular area, but there are 5 bridges that we have to be replaced in 2026, I think it is. Yeah. Say to all of the public, thank you for allowing us to be your commissioner. And you have a great group of individuals who work hard. They call me until 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, making me work on projects. So,
Commissioner, is there anything we can do between now and when the legislature grants the money on widening the interstate and the bridge, as far as could we do environmentals or design before the money's actually granted from the state in moving the project forward and putting the ramps on the interstate from the bridge on Reunion 2?
We can't move because we don't have the money to do so.
To do design?
No, sir. And but once we get the money, let's say it's in the 3-year plan, we're ready to move with pre-construction, which is the kind of thing that you're speaking of, but we haven't activated or pushed that button yet because, again, of the funding process. And because it's interstate, we got to play with the feds and stay within their guidelines as to what we can and what we don't do. They don't want to commit money where we as a state are not committed money to complete a project. So there are certain things that they will not do. But once we know the money is coming, then everybody's on board to make it work.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner, thank you for coming.
Thank you all again. Okay.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we work very close with Commissioner Simmons just throughout the year, and he's been very welcoming to us as far as coming and sit down and talking and having discussions like this. It's very helpful. As we move on, one thing that I know we have concerned citizens, but before we go there in public hearing, we have consent items. I would like to go ahead and take the consent items up before we take up concerned citizens in the public hearing. Are there anything that any item that the board would like to remove on the consent items? If not, I would ask for a motion for approval.
Second.
Motion by Supervisor Baxter, second by Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, at this point, we want to back up and look at concerned citizens. And I know most are here for the public hearing, but I would like to ask, are there any concerned citizen that has signed up that is not here for the public hearing? That is not for the public hearing.
Yes, sir. There is at least one.
Okay.
Josh Sims.
Okay. Mr. Sams?
All right, Ms. Sims, you back again.
Yeah, I feel like a regular here right now. I'm just following up from the last board meeting that we had about the Shady Acres Lane, the property that I own out there. I think that we were getting some measurements and kind of making a determination on whether there was going to be some improvements to it. I know Tim, and I don't know if Tim got with you about the how far the distance and everything was on it, but I'm just kind of following up to see if y'all made a determination if it's going to be stayed public or if that piece is going to be abandoned and stayed private. Just kind of following up on that information.
Mr. Sims, before we go further, would you just go ahead and state your name and give your address?
Josh
again for
Sims,
the record?
523 Hunters Creek Circle in Madison, Mississippi.
Thank you. Tim?
Since the last time I went out there, Mr. Sims has actually bush hogged the property, so we were able to see more where everything was. And since that time, I've also talked to Cornelius a little bit more about Shady Acres Lane, and he has expressed that we've never maintained any of Shady Acres Lane. So I was misinformed the last time that I came before you that we had maintained some of it, but not all of it. So if we did go back and maintain Shady Acres Lane, we would have to go back and maintain all of Shady Acres Lane. So what we came to the first time was that we would maintain up into Mr. Sims' property, which was from the last house would be 300 feet to the edge of his property. Well, now it would be from the beginning of the property, or the beginning of the road, to the end of, or to the eastern edge of his property. But either one of those does not get to the point that he was asking for the culvert to be replaced. So the board's got a decision to make. Do we want to maintain the road? Do we want to maintain it to the eastern part of his property? Or do we not want to maintain any of the road?
How much road you talk about and how many houses on it?
There are, I believe, 4 houses on it, if you include yours. If you include the future one that he plans to build.
Okay. So I think that throws us back to a policy. If we want to take a private road and make it public, we have to go through that process. And that would be my motion. We might not even need a motion yet for them to go through the policy that we have already in place and bring it before the board. Then the board can make a determination whether they want to accept it as a public road.
Okay. Tim, am I hearing you that at the day is not a public road? Is that what you're saying?
Well, it's everything I said at the last board meeting was correct, that it, on the 2000 road registry, it is listed as a public road,
right,
but we've never maintained it as a public road. And so the only thing I had wrong was the limit of where we didn't maintain it. Cornelius said we've never maintained any of it. So the limit changed. So we've never maintained any of the road, so we would have to go back and begin to maintain all of it.
Mike, how would we do that as far as from a legal standpoint if the board decides to, I guess, start maintaining it?
Good morning.
Good morning.
So if it's a public road and we have not maintained it, then we've effectively abandoned it.
Right.
So we've abandoned this road, evidently. So in order to make it a public road, you have something to consider. So I'm sure the gentleman is well-meaning. He wants a road to his house. Channel 3. So you have to consider whether making this a public road again will benefit the entire public of Madison County. If you want to consider making it a public road that's going to benefit a homeowner or maybe a couple of homeowners, use public dollars to maintain a road essentially for the benefit of a resident, that's problematic. That's problematic. These are public dollars.
Right.
Supposed to be spent on the benefit of the public and not the benefit of a private homeowner. So I can't tell you to do it or not to do it, but if you want to do it, you have to go through the process of, again, making it, again, a public road, which is more or less maybe what Tim has already started to do, consult the engineer, consult the road manager, and have a hearing on whether or not this is really to the public benefit. So that's your decision to make and your discretion. But you are authorized to do this, but you'll be questioned maybe by the public as to whether or not this is really a public benefit, and that's your question.
So,
Don't run off, Mike.
no, go ahead, Supervisor Griffin.
I don't want to complicate this thing anymore, but even though we hadn't worked it over a period of years, but there haven't been a vote of this board to abandon it, ain't it still considered a public road, but we just hadn't maintained it?
But if you haven't maintained it for a long length of time, you've effectively abandoned it. So I'd say if you're now trying to use public money now to go back to do it, it's a simple process. If you think that it's within to conduct this exercise, to again make it public, I think you have to go to justify, Mr. Griffin, why you want to do that. And if it's going to benefit a few people, so if it's a thoroughfare, in the future Madison County, this road is going to be needed for the benefit of residents, a large subdivision or something, fine. But if it's your decision. I'm just telling you the caveats. So if you want to just do it, public dollars to benefit a few people, that's a legal concern that I have to raise with you, but it's up to you to determine that.
How?
I think you have to have, Mr. Griffin, some sort of public justification to do this.
All right. Tim, you say there's 3 other homes on that road currently.
Yes, sir.
Are we maintaining the road up to those 3 homes now?
According to Cornelius, we are not.
So who is maintaining those? The homeowner?
I'm assuming so. The road's got some bad sections in it right now. So it may not be anybody.
Tim, who built the road to begin with? Do we have a construction date?
I couldn't tell you. It's just a little gravel road.
Build that road. The county built
I would guess that it was probably sold off a piece at a time, and it was just a gravel road built a little bit at a time that was put in. And that's just me thinking. I don't really have a basis for that. I mean, it's just honestly, just a little gravel road that extends from the end of a public asphalt road.
Can we tell Tim and Mike work together and bring us something back the next meeting that we can consider?
Yeah, I think that's probably the best route to go is for y'all to come together and first of all, to see about the abandoned road, make sure it is abandoned, when's the last time it's been worked, but also bring back an estimate cost. If this board decided to move forward, at least we would know an estimate cost to maintain it. Because that is a decision that's, we'll need to make. And if this board decided to move forward with it, then we would have to go through the process.
Bring back 2 of them, Tim. One to making it up to a rock road, and one that making it up to a paved section.
Okay.
Let me ask a question. What type of road is there now? Is it?
It's just gravel.
It's just a scrabble road. Okay.
And not a whole lot of gravel.
Yeah. The fact that it has not been maintained by the road department over a number of years really doesn't bother me very much, because there's a lot of roads that hadn't been maintained by the road department over a number of years. Some of them because they don't have a lot of traffic, and it doesn't take much to keep that road passable for the people who live there. 3 houses, I would imagine those folks don't want to see that road looking like a super highway, because then that just brings in people, just nosy folk that don't need to be there in the first place. I don't think that we've abandoned the road. We just haven't had the necessity to work the road. So there's a difference in abandoning. If we abandon a road, it's going to be spread on the minutes of the Board of Supervisors, and I don't think anybody has that anywhere on any minutes to say that we've actually abandoned the road.
I looked and I could not find that.
So we just haven't had the necessity to maintain the road. So if we use the correct terminology, you don't run into as many legal issues.
Understood.
That's the main thing that I'm concerned about today is what our attorney said to us. We just need to make sure we have the facts that's in front of us before a decision like this is made. So I think Supervisor Griffin is correct, is for you and Mike to work together and bring back the facts to the board.
Okay. Will do.
Yeah, I just want to, excuse me. I just looked at my Mississippi Attorney General opinions on this. And this is a 1994 opinion that I just looked up. It says that the Mississippi Supreme Court has stated that it is the clear trend of authority in Mississippi that, quote, protracted non-use for an extended period of time is sufficient in law to create a presumption of abandonment. And that's, the cases are cited, and so there's an assumption of abandonment for extended non-use for a period of time in law. So it's abandoned, so you just go back and justify it to put it back as a public road if you want to do that. That's what it says.
Okay. Tim, at this point then, just bring us back something as far as some estimates, you know, and they go from there. But I still want you to work with Mike, because we definitely want to make sure, if we do anything, that it's definitely legal and up board. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sams.
Thank you.
Any other concerned citizens that's not here?
I think there's one more that's non-Clarkdale Road, and
Okay.
that would be, I'm guessing, Carol Mann, unless I can't read.
Okay.
I'm mostly literate.
If you would, please state your name, give the address, and a couple of minutes, please.
Hi, my name is Carol Mann. I live at 316 Sonoma Cove in Madison in the Trace Vineyard subdivision. I met with Mr. Kyle Kirkpatrick, Assistant Secretary of State, over Elections Division. Mr. Kirkpatrick was kind enough to review Ms. Pearson and Ms. Rogansky's candidacy applications. Ms. Pearson is running for Madison County Election Commissioner, District 3, and Ms. Burgansky for District 5. Mr. Kirkpatrick made a copy of the Attorney General opinion on this issue that you have in front of you. It was handed out at your meeting on February the 20th. The petition signature pages are not in compliance with state law as required by Mississippi Code Section 23-15-361. The top of each signature page must be completely filled out. This requirement is clearly stated at the bottom of each signature page. The date of the election, if this was a general or special election, and the voter's county district name and number were omitted and not declared as required by state law. This job requires someone who pays attention to detail. Our election commissioners decide who is allowed to vote and who is not, which ballots will be counted, and which ones will be thrown out. I ask you to reconsider and disqualify these candidates, and I urge you to follow our state laws and apply them equally and fairly to all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mike, would you like to respond? Because this has been through court.
Yes, sir, but this, I don't believe that this law that you have in front of you was brought up during that.
But may not have been.
And I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm just seeing this, but my opinion will not change. The opinion, the case involves a candidate for election commission of District 3 in Madison County. And a citizen appeared before you several months ago and raised these similar issues, that the candidate in question had not filled out the petition entirely. And he asked that you dismiss her, and then you gave me 2 weeks to review it. And after 2 weeks, I returned to you, and I cited you Mississippi state law, AG opinions that, I'm going on memory now, but it's 2 things. One is, in the law, there are aspects that are mandatory, like you must file on time, and you must affix to your petition enough signatures of residents in that district to support the candidacy of that person to the extent that they sign a petition. So there are elements of this process that are mandatory, and there are elements that are not mandatory, but discretionary, but sufficient enough to support a sufficiency of the candidate being qualified. So I went through this to you on this case. What's mandatory, what's sufficient, and I made a judgment to you and made a recommendation that this particular candidate had done all of the mandatory items, and there had been enough of the sufficient items to raise it to a level where you could make a judgment that this candidacy was something that was not defrauding the public, what the public understood, all the elements of it. And I made a recommendation to you that you vote to authorize this candidate. So there was a lawsuit from that recommendation. And we went through the lawsuit, and we handled this lawsuit before Judge Mills. And Judge Mills, we gave Judge Mills the record, we gave him the law. The other counsel did the same. He gave Judge Mills the law. We argued this case through our motions and through our briefs. And Judge Mills voted and ruled 2 weeks ago that your decision was sufficient, was legal, was not arbitrary, was not capricious, your ruling did not violate anybody's constitutional rights, and that was well within your discretion to make the ruling that you made. So Judge Mills found in favor of this board's decision, and then he asked us to draft the order. I drafted the order. The attorney opposite us reviewed the order and signed the order. So I'm saying we've gone far enough now. Well, I think the matter is settled in my opinion. I do understand that the other counsel has, as of last Friday, appealed to the Mississippi Supreme Court, an expedited motion to reconsider. And so that's the Supreme Court. If they take it, that's okay. I don't know what they will, but if they do, they'll make a decision. It's expedited because we know we have an election coming up very soon. So now I just say to you, take no action, because he's ruled in your favor. We've done good work here. It's very logical. Everything is on the record, and he made a decision. And so now they want to appeal again from something you did to the Supreme Court, then let that happen, and the Supreme Court will make a decision. So I'm saying do nothing today. That's my recommendation to you, and let the Supreme Court make a decision. Howard Brown. Howard Brown. Two.
But she is talking about two districts in this stack here, is District 3 and District 5, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Any other comments on that, statements from the board? Okay, if not, we're going to move on. Any other concerned citizens that's not here?
Sir, I believe everyone else on the list is here for the Clarkdale Road public hearing.
Okay, and I would like to ask, if you didn't sign up, if there's someone here that's want to speak as a concerned citizen that is not here for the Clarkdale Road, now's the time to come up and to the podium and speak to the board. Okay. Second of all, we're going to give everyone an opportunity to speak at the appropriate time. But before we do, this is a public hearing, and I'd like to have a motion to ask the board for a motion to go into a public hearing. Got a motion, Supervisor Baxter, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Okay, we are now in the public hearing concerning Clarkdale Road or LLC and Stillhouse Creek LLC appeal hearing. So when we start with, as I mentioned, each one will have an opportunity for 2 minutes to come up and just let the board know what your thoughts are. And when you come, if you would, just state your name and give your address for the record as well. But before we start, I would ask our planning and zoning attorney, Andy Clark, to come up and give the board some information as far as what we're here for and kind of clarify some of those up first.
Yes, sir. Good morning. What you have before you today, the petitioners, Clarkdale Farms LLC and Stillhouse Creek LLC, filed a petition with the permission of the owners of the property, the owners being the Yandel family, to rezone approximately 363 acres from R1 residential, which is its current designation, to an R2 residential with a PURD overlay, PURD being a planned unit residential development. That petition was properly before the Madison County Planning and Zoning Commission on August the 8th of 2024. The arguments of the parties are reflected in the minutes that you just acknowledged on the consent item, consent agenda a few minutes ago. The result of that was a 3-2 decision, or actually I guess it would be a 3-0 decision. You had 3 members voting to deny, 2 that abstained. So the petitioners have appealed that decision, which is before you today. You all know the criteria for rezoning, but I'll restate it here for the record today. In order for there to be a rezoning, which would actually be an amendment to the official zoning map, the petitioners would have to prove that there was a mistake in the original zoning, and that would simply mean a clerical or administrative error. Otherwise, the petitioners would have to prove that the character of the neighborhood has changed to such an extent as to justify the reclassification, and that there is a public need for the rezoning. There's also an additional prong that the proposed rezoning should be consistent with the adopted comprehensive plan. That comprehensive plan is made up of 4 elements, which would be obviously the goals and objectives, the land use plan, transportation plan, the community facilities plan. The last time that you all adopted a comprehensive plan would have been either, I believe, in November of 2019, and it would have gone into effect in December of 2019. So the decision of the Planning and Zoning Commission, as you all know, we are an advisory board. The final determination lies with you all as the Board of Supervisors. So unless there are any questions from me, that's... Sure. R1 is the lowest, I guess you'd say the least restrictive residential zoning. It's just, quite frankly, it's larger lots. R2 would be a less dense zoning, I guess you'd say. R2 would be moderate density residential zoning is how it's termed in our zoning ordinance. But keep in mind that you also have a PURD. A PURD is an overlay district, being overlaid over any type of residential district here in the county. That allows for greater densities of lots, but there's also requirements for certain amounts of common area, being green spaces or a neighborhood building or pool or walking trails or whatever there may be, that those common areas would be owned presumably by a homeowners association that would be formed with the neighborhood. Sure. It's a total of about 363 acres. I believe the proposal that was brought before us, there are 2 separate tracts here. Tract 1 is the larger, and the proposal there would be a total of 536 lots. And then Tract 2 is a little bit smaller, would be a total of 297 lots. But keep in mind, the only thing before you today is the rezoning. The number of lots, green spaces, all those things that I just talked about, that would come at a later time. If and when the rezoning is approved, the next step would be a platting phase. There's always a preliminary plat, as you know. and then a final plat that would come into play. So those numbers that I just gave you on the number of lots, it's a pretty good idea most of the time, but it's a flexible number.
At its current zoning, how many lots could they get out of this 360 acres?
Just generally speaking, 363. I think R2 residential, if I recall correctly. Scott, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, R1.
2 acres?
Their current.
Yes, that's what I meant. If I misspoke, I'm talking about R1s. 2 acre minimum lot? Yeah, so I was absent today. They taught math, but 363 divided by 2.
So that's what, 180?
Somewhat.
Give or take. So 180 versus 830.
Right, but that does not count the PERD overlay. That makes a substantial difference. There's no minimum lot size with the PERD.
Okay. Other questions for Andy before we start? No, from the board, that is. Other
Thank you.
questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Before we start, we just need to set a couple of, I guess, guidelines. And first of all is time limits on the attorneys. I would ask each side, who is going to be the spokesperson for the plaintiff or the petitioner, I guess?
Neil Bryant.
Okay. You would be the only spokesperson, or will there possibly be two?
I will be the only one that's planned to speak, but we have our traffic engineer, we have co-counsel.
Right. I'm just talking about the attorney as far as that goes. All right. And on the other attorneys to represent the homeowners? So there'd be two of y'all. If we would, then y'all two, or you four would speak as attorneys. And I know that y'all would bring other people up and other information as well. But I'd like to give both of y'all 15 minutes each to be able to come and present your, I don't want to say case, but that's what it is. And 15 minutes each includes both attorneys on both sides. So we'll start with you first. Just come up and state your name, and then once we hear them, then we'll let anyone speak from the public for 2 minutes. And just be prepared to come up, and please be prepared to let the board, tell the board what you'd like for the board to know, because 2 minutes goes pretty quick, so, yes, sir.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Neil Bryant. Thank you all for your service to the county. I represent Beverly Yandel Milam, Catherine Ellen Yandel Laurent, Phyllis Ann Yandel Mashburn, and Melinda Yandel Perry, the owners of the property that's the subject of this rezoning application by Clarkdale Farms LLC and Stillhouse Creek LLC. And as our interests are aligned in this matter, I am here on behalf of the owners and the developers, along with my co-counsel, Don McGraw. And forgive me for reading, but I've got a lot of facts, I've got a lot of numbers, and I don't want to miss anything with only 15 minutes. So this is an appeal from the Planning and Zoning Commission's denial of the August 8th, 2024 application to rezone approximately 363 acres of undeveloped land on the east side of Clarkdale Road, about 1 mile south of Yandel Road in District 5 from R1 to R2 with a PERD overlay. Before getting into a review of the application, the reasons the P&Z Commission gave for denial should be noted, as Andy has already done, but I will do it again. Number one, they said it was not in the best interest of the community. Number two, they said the infrastructure cannot withstand an increase in traffic of up to 60%. Number three, they said the roads are already an issue and can't pinpoint when the county will complete the road projects. And number four, they said that the State Board of Education recommends a 1 to 24 teacher-student ratio, and that this will be penalizing students. However, none of these reasons address the standard for rezoning required by Section 806.03B of the zoning ordinance, which states that the applicant must show either that a mistake was made in the original zoning or that the character of the neighborhood has changed to such an extent as to justify reclassification, and that there is a public need for the rezoning. I'm going to go over the proposed developments very quickly, as Andy's already addressed. The houses will be in the 1,900 to 2,800 square foot range. For context, these will be like Greyhawk and Thornberry with 2 to 3 car garages. The lots will be around 10,000 to 14,000 square feet with some up to 25,000 square feet, for instance, corner lots as necessary. The R2 minimum is 10,600, but this is one of the reasons we're asking for the PERD overlay, because it takes into the aggregate of square footage across the board. PERD overlay is also being requested to preserve the existing natural features. When fully developed, there will be approximately 19% of the property in common area. That's around 52 acres, which is well above the 15% required under the PERD zoning. Both developments will have strict covenants that require an HOA and architectural review committee. There will be an architecturally designed and landscaped gated entrance to Clarkdale Road. The current plan is for the development on Tract 1 to be 536 lots, rather than the 10,040 lots that would be permitted under R2. And Tract 2 will have 297 lots rather than the 449 lots permitted under R2, for a total of 504 less than permitted on Tract 1 and 152 less than permitted on Tract 2. So we are still staying at a lower density than we could otherwise go to under R2. Once zoning is approved, it will be 2 to 3 years before constructions of any homes can begin. We expect it will take 12 months to fully design the subdivision, another 10 to 12 months to construct the roads, utilities, and stormwater facilities, and that is a conservative estimate. Total build-out will take 10 to 12 years. Given the county's plans and schedules for its roadway improvements to the area, our traffic engineer, Mr. Jonathan Kaiser, who's here today, has advised that there will be more than enough capacity to accommodate our proposed development. His report is in the record and attached to the original application. In other words, we are tracking along with what the county is already doing with the roads, so the timing is right when these houses hit the market and the roads will be ready. Now, to address the standards which must be met according to the zoning ordinance, I'm going to address public need first. It's no secret that there is a housing shortage nationwide, so much so it's become a campaign issue in the current presidential election. Madison County is no exception. Let me talk about absorption rates for a minute. For those who don't know, absorption rates deal with available properties compared to sales. In layman's terms, how many houses are sold per month compared to how many listings we have. And if people quit listing houses today, how long before we run out of houses? For August, MLS data shows a 25% absorption rate, or 4 months of inventory, and this is the highest it's been in 4 years, and has increased over that time as interest rates have risen. Just a few years ago, we were sitting at 1 month of inventory for a very sustained period of time, a couple of years. We currently have 4 months' worth of houses to sell. When rates come down, we're going to be in a bind without more inventory. An ideal or balanced market is 15 to 20%, or 5 to 6 months' worth of inventory. This is a seller's market. On top of that, in 2023, over 900 residential building permits were issued in Madison County, excluding incorporated areas. To date, in 2024, over 500 permits have been issued. That's simply not enough to keep up with demand. On top of that, Madison County is on the front line for economic development and job growth in Mississippi, particularly central Mississippi. Amazon is adding 1,000 jobs with a $10 billion project, which will be certain to bring along complementary employers to service it, just as Nissan did. Clark Beverage is adding 325 jobs, not to mention jobs provided by small businesses. The SBA estimates that small businesses account for 46.4% of private sector jobs. Gluckstadt is aggressively recruiting new businesses, but only has one R2 subdivision and one R2 PUD subdivision east of the interstate. Not to mention the tireless work of Makita, this board, and our commissioners, along with MDA, to bring new businesses and industries to Madison County, particularly areas with access to intermodal transportation and electrical infrastructure in place or readily available, both of which are located nearby. The bottom line, and economic developers will tell you this, and our commissioners have told you this today, availability of housing is a huge factor in attracting jobs. Mr. Doble and Mr. Kress have identified only around 400 acres currently suitable for residential development on the west side of the interstate. The growth path for residential development in Madison County is on the east side of I-55, as reflected in the 2019 Comprehensive Plan. We need more housing in Madison County, and the future land use map anticipates the subject property will help meet that need with medium and moderate density housing, particularly now given that the water and sewer are now available on Clarkdale Road, and I will reference you to the letter from Bear Creek in the application. Now, second, I will address the fact that the character of the neighborhood has changed to such an extent as to justify reclassification. Just look at a map of the area. You have a very large cow pasture, unoccupied by any cows, surrounded by R2 subdivisions and R1 subdivisions and R1A subdivisions and 1B subdivisions, but it's all houses around this property. Glenwild, Glendale Farms, Hampton Hills, Oakdale, Hanover, Coventry, Kemper Creek, Sweetbriar, Bear Creek Crossing, Bradshaw Ridge, the latter two in Gluckstadt now, and Oakfield were all once, they're all either R1 or R2 with PUD or PURD zoning. Glenwild, Glendale Farms, and Oakfield were all once part of the 1,000-acre tract once owned by the Yandle family for generations, with the subject property being the last remaining part of that original tract. Furthermore, to develop the subject property as R1 would contradict the future land use map of the comprehensive plan. Don, would you grab the maps there? The future land use map designates the subject property as moderate or medium density residential, not R1 low density as it's currently zoned. The presence of R1 on the west side of Clarkdale makes no difference, as that is how the future land use map has the land designated. This is in furtherance of the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, which I would remind you the two goals when it comes to residential. Yeah, this is the big one. So this is the subject property here. Yellow is medium, moderate residential. Here, green is all. So goal 1, to maintain and expand residential density patterns that will produce desirable concentrations of residences and will not overburden the county's transportation network or public facilities. And goal 2, to provide housing to meet the needs of citizens at an affordable cost. As I mentioned earlier, the future land use map of the comprehensive plan designates the subject property as medium or moderate residential, and the plan actually uses those terms interchangeably, unlike the zoning ordinance. Prior to the current zoning map adopted in 2019, the subject property was zoned A1 agricultural. I want to read to you from the minutes of the P&Z meeting when the comprehensive plan and the current zoning map were adopted from October the 24th, 2019. There next came on, this is a quote, there next came on for consideration the updates to the proposed comprehensive plan, which includes the updates to the land use plan and the amendments to the zoning ordinances, which includes the updates to the zoning map. Because these items are interrelated, they were presented together. Zoning Administrator Weeks introduced these items and explained that the legal publication requirements had been met and that these had been available online and in his office. He had received a few questions which he addressed. He introduced Gray Outs with CMPDD, who their office, I paraphrase that, who their office had worked with to accomplish these updates. She explained that this had been a 2-year process and that state law requires such updates to address controlled growth. She explained the growth to this area and stated that the highest growth areas had been in the old districts 2 and 4. She further stated that a change in the character of the area had occurred because it was more suburban, and so the updates had addressed that issue. She also explained that this was catching up with the future land use map that already had these areas residential estate instead of agricultural. She said that other changes to the zoning on the map they had made to reconcile differences in use with the actual zoning or make corrections on zoning errors, and provided a few examples. She further noted that state law at Code Section 17-121 now restricts the county's ability to regulate agriculturally zoned areas, so it was in the best interest of everyone to change this to residential. On November 18th, the Board of Supervisors approved that comprehensive plan and the zoning map. 9 months later, on August 17th, 2020, Board of Supervisors heard the application of Rands LLC to rezone some property from R1 to R2. At that meeting, from the minutes, Scott Weeks, Administrator Weeks, stated that the reasons, quote, the reason this property had been rezoned from agricultural to residential was due to a change in the law in Mississippi for agricultural property. He explained that they changed this property zoning as a part of the comprehensive update, taking it to the least restrictive residential zoning because the area is predominantly residential. He further explained it would be up to the owner of the property to then seek to rezone it to the type residential they wanted, the type residential zoning they wanted. The county speaks through this board, and this board speaks through its minutes. The county never intended for this property to be developed as R1, but was accommodating the landowner's use of their previously A1 property by changing it to R1. The minutes adopting both maps at the same meeting make this abundantly clear. The adoption of the land use map by the board is itself evidence of the change in character of the neighborhood and public need. From the comprehensive plan, page 4, I'm reading from that. When there is a conflict between an implementation regulation, and that's defined including a zoning map, a conflict between an implementation regulation and the plan should supersede the regulation. The plan should supersede the regulation. The plan should serve as a guide for consideration of amendments to the zoning ordinance, the official zoning map, the subdivision ordinance, the capital improvements program, and the capital improvements budget. Regulations that are consistent with or conform to a comprehensive plan must be consistent with each element of the plan, even though there is generally not an exact match between the land use map and the zoning map. The two should mirror each other as closely as possible. And I'm going to skip down in that section. All policy decisions related to the development of property, including rezonings, within the local government should be based on the comprehensive plan. Further down the comprehensive plan on page 29, it reads, "The land use plan is a statement of the county's desired future and a general guide to consistency and change in land uses. It serves as a general and long-range policy guide for the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors when making decisions regarding private and public development proposals. The land use plan also serves as the foundation for zoning and subdivision regulations, which put the plan's goals and objectives into action. The land use patterns shown on the land use map form the basis for future changes in zoning districts or subdivision policies. The county zoning map must be consistent with the land use plan, and the zoning ordinance must be consistent with the land use goals and objectives of the plan." And we all know Mississippi Section 17-1-9. Zoning regulations shall be made in accordance with a comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan has this property as medium-density residential, which is R2. It is not R1. The other route to amending a zoning map is to show that a mistake was made in the original zoning map. In the event this board finds that the applicants have not met their burden to show change in the character of the neighborhood and public need, we request that this board acknowledge that a mistake was made in 2019 by adopting a zoning map inconsistent with the future land use map of the comprehensive plan and rezone the subject property to R2 in compliance with applicable law. Again, from the comprehensive plan, page 5. If the proposed policy decision does not conform to the plan must be amended before the requested change in zoning classification can be approved. It didn't happen in 2019. Adopted the plan, then adopted the map. In our case, the opposite of that statement was true. The proposed policy decision to rezone our application does conform to the plan, while the current zoning classification does not. The county has implemented a plan and allocated funds for the transportation issues that will be resolved before we are built out. Again, 10 to 12 years. The school issues can be taken up with the school board. And the school district has issued a letter, which is in the record, saying it can handle additional students. The tax revenue these developments bring in for the schools will certainly help with that. I urge you to overturn the Planning and Zoning Commission's decision and approve our request for rezoning. Thank you for your time and welcome any questions.
Yes, sir. Mr. Bryant, I might have should have given you 16 minutes because you spoke kind of fast there.
Sorry. I had a lot. I was trying to get it in there.
We may have. I just want to go over several, statements that you made. We all know it's 363 acres.
Yes, sir.
You were asking from R1 to R2.
Yes, sir.
And you made the statement here, square footage, 1,900 square feet to 2,800 square feet.
Correct.
For the homes?
For the homes.
Okay, and
Houses.
then you had,
No.
Track 2.
That's the two combined. That's true for tract 1. Tract 2 is going to be 17 to 2,200 on tract 2, the smaller one, tract.
okay, that's track 2.
Right.
Okay, and then the square foot of the lots is, you said 10 to 14,000 square feet.
See the lots, 10 to 14,000 square feet on
the
average.
lots.
With some corner lots maybe
Is
bigger.
that track 1 and track 2?
Is that track 1, that's track 1 and track 2? Somewhat, I mean, somewhat, but again, it's we're putting a PERD overlay, and so as we get into the design, but overall, that's what PERD allows you to rely on the aggregate because you're putting so much into green space and common areas that you can play with the lines a little bit, all of which will be subject to plat approval. at a future date.
Okay. I'm just repeating what you said.
Right.
And that's what I'm trying to get the facts.
Okay, I'm sorry for that.
And then you said track 1, the lots would end up being 536.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Yep, 536 lots.
All right, and I missed how many lots you said on track 2?
297.
297, okay. And you said the build-out would be 10 to 12 years?
That's what we estimate.
And also, you mentioned 2 to 3 years before there's a permit would be asked for a building or a home.
We anticipate about a year for planning, and then another roughly a year to put in the infrastructure, the streets, the utilities, stormwater facilities.
But you said 2 to 3 years?
2 to 3 years.
Okay.
Is estimated.
Okay. And I believe the rest of it, I have some other questions, but the rest of it are legal questions, and I will wait until that time will come up to ask. But are those facts correct that I just named off?
Yes, correct, yes.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
Are these homes purely for sale? There's not any leasing going on in this?
They're for sale. These are for sale.
Single-family.
Yeah, single family for sale. 2 to 3 car garages.
All right. Are these any rental homes? Would that be stipulated in your HOA covenants?
But no rentals in the covenant?
So it would not be any rental homes at all?
No.
So HOA wouldn't allow for a certain amount of rentals.
No.
There
No
would
question.
be 0% rentals.
Yeah, most of our covenants have board approval for any of those types. You have to have a minimum of a year, but I don't have any plans for that.
Okay, the answer is no.
The answer
Is that what the answer is?
At this, no,
Excuse me,
no.
Blake, can you approach the microphone when you're?
No, we don't need him at this point. The attorney, you
Yes.
want to answer that question for him?
My understanding is that right now, no, we do not plan to do rentals, but we have not begun to draft covenants or anything like that.
All right, Blake, you come up then, because we need to get this confirmed.
So most of our covenants are run by boards, board of directors for the HOA. Those boards can determine certain rules and regs as to whether they accept leases or don't accept leases.
Right.
Now, we can stipulate in, and Arthur, I won't speak to yours, but I can stipulate in this phase, if that's a general concern, we can restrict that. I can, when we annex whatever this phase, track 2, into Oakfield, it can simply be stated that there shall be no rentals. We're okay with that.
Okay, is that what you're saying today?
That is what I'm saying today.
And that's
Now,
what-
the
that's what
only
you're telling us
exception to
for?
that, you do have these moving companies. If somebody gets a job, moves to Nashville, and then they have a company that comes in and takes that house. Sometimes there's an exception there, but, I'm okay to abolish all of that for track 2.
Okay, so for track 2 is no rental.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
All right, Arthur, for track 1, if this happens to go
Track 1
through.
will not have any rentals in the.
So no
in the
rentals for
covenants.
track 1 or track 2?
Just like Glenwild does not allow, covenants don't allow it. Greyhawk, we didn't allow it. Thornberry, we don't allow it either.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the board?
I say mine to afterward.
Okay, thank you. So, at this point, we'd like to hear from Mr. Eves or Mr. Martin.
Sam Martin.
Mr. Martin, if you would, just state your name and give your address, please.
Sure. Good morning, Board. Thanks for the opportunity to
Morning.
speak. Sam Martin, I live at 128 Stokes Road, Flora. That is Mr. Banks' district. But here today, I am representing some concerned citizens of this community. I think the legal standard, I don't want to say it for the third time, I think it's been well established, right? That the developer has to prove by clear and convincing evidence that there has been a change in the character of the neighborhood to such an extent as to justify the rezoning, and that there is a public need for the rezoning. So I'll say it, for the third time. But what's interesting about that is when the courts have considered this analysis, what they've said is that there must be a substantial change in the neighborhood. It can't just be one change. It must be a substantial change. And as you'll see here today, and I'm going to try to keep my remarks brief because I think it would be good for you all to hear all of these concerned citizens, and I'll definitely be less than 15 minutes, Supervisor Steen.
Well, that's 15 minutes for both of y'all together.
Well, I'll be less than 7 if I can.
All right, thank you.
So I encourage, as you listen to the testimony here today, to remember that it is up to the developer to provide that clear and convincing evidence. It's not up to the public who are here today simply expressing their wishes for you all to deny this rezoning. Now, having said that, the Supreme Court has stated, and I'm quoting, "Substantial weight may be given to the concerns of local citizens in determining whether a public need exists for rezoning." Well, as you can see here today, we have many public citizens who will testify, and they'll testify that there is not a public need at this point for this kind of development in this area. The proponents have also cited to the Amazon plant as a reason for the need for this development. And unquestionably, the Amazon plant will be a great addition to this county. However, it is more than 10 miles from this proposed development. It is on the other side of the interstate, and it is not in the same growth path. Any need that is created as a result of the Amazon plant is being sufficiently served by the neighborhoods off of Stribling Road, Catlett Road, Lake Caroline, Highway 22, and the new neighborhoods that have already been approved or will be approved in the future in that area. And I have some maps here today that I think are important for us to consider regarding this factor about a change in the character of the neighborhood. I have some copies, and I'd like to pass them out to you and ask that they be entered.
Administrator.
Okay.
Good save, Greg.
Sam, you can continue
Okay.
speaking as he hands out, please.
Sure. So as you can see on those maps, you see 2004, 2014, and 2021, which reflects most recent GIS data available from the USDA mapping service. And in that light blue line there, that's the proposed development. And so when considering what this change in the character of neighborhood, what really that means, what is a neighborhood in the context of a change? And what is the distance? The Supreme Court has considered this. And in really the leading case, they've stated that a change that occurred 2 miles away had no relevance with regard to the neighborhood in question. So if the Supreme Court is saying 2 miles away is too far for this analysis, what I did there was I marked a 1 mile radius. So you'll see on your map from that north boundary line of the proposed development to Yandell Road, that's roughly a mile. And then from the south there to the bottom of that page is roughly a mile, and then again to the east and the west, as you can see. And so what I think is important for us to recognize in these images here, and from the zoning map down here that you looked at earlier, is that to the west, in the east, and the south, all of these areas are zoned residential estate, just as this parcel is today. And what you can see in that area, from 2004 to 2021, and even today, all of those areas have largely remained unchanged. And in many cases, it's the same landowner that owns those properties. The only change that you'll notice there is to the north of this proposed development, with the neighborhood that would be connected to this neighborhood with through streets. What's ironic about that is that many of the people who live in that neighborhood are adamantly opposed to this proposed development. Now, going back to these neighbors who live around this development, they live in residential estate parcels, at least 2 acre minimums, and they've lived there in many cases for many years. And the Supreme Court has recognized this. And they've stated that the courts presume that the original zoning is well-planned and designed to be permanent. In the same way, these landowners bought their parcels and built upon their parcels in a manner consistent with residential estate, spending time and money to do so. And the result is that this area, again, is simply not conducive to a PUD R2 neighborhood. Considering this issue, the judges on the Supreme Court have said it best, as they usually do. And in closing, I want to read you 2 quotes because I think they're powerful, because here's the court considering this exact issue, and they really as always, did an excellent job. In the Roundstone development case, the court stated, amendments to zoning ordinances must be made after careful consideration because investments in land and property are significant financial decisions, and a landowner should be able to rely upon a zoning plan to maintain the use and value of his property. The court further stated in the Wheatley Place Incorporated case, purchasers of small tracts of land invest a substantial portion of their entire lifetime earnings, relying upon a zoning ordinance. Without the assurance of the zoning ordinance, such investments would not be made. On this small area, they build their homes, where they expect to spend the most peaceful, restful, and enjoyable hours of the day. The court further stated, an amendment to a zoning ordinance is not meant to be easy. Otherwise, the zoning ordinance would be a meaningless scrap of paper. Thank you for your time. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Martin, you mentioned the subdivision, I think, north of it. What's the name of that subdivision?
I'm not familiar. Is it Clark? Oakfield, which would connect to this development, according to their site planning.
Okay, and how many homes are in that subdivision?
Respectfully, I would not be the best person to answer that.
There's 420 something in there right now.
Okay, and apparently, Blake, you're the developer?
I am. Now, I wasn't the original.
That's fine.
I bought it out of bankruptcy.
Okay, and so there's 400 and something homes, not lots, but homes in that subdivision. Was it R1 as well at the time? Or do we recall?
I believe it was ag. I believe it was ag before it was R1.
A1?
R2 when I got it. It
All
was
right, Scott.
zoned in 2011.
That's okay. Scott. Come up to the front, please. On this subdivision we're talking about right north of this land that we're talking about, the zoning, was it original, what was its original zoning?
Based on what I can recall, I think it was ag.
Okay, and so it went from there, ag to R?
Went to a PUD.
To a PUD, okay.
Correct.
And that means?
Well, the plan unit development, so they had to, basically it had its R2 underlying district, so it would be R2 in a PUD.
So the lots there are 10,600 square feet then?
Essentially, yes, that's the minimum.
That's what R2 is, 10.6. Okay.
And they went there what year, 2021?
2011, I think I heard someone say.
Okay. Now, you're showing it on our map of 2021 that you handed out, but it's also showing, well, it's not showing in 2014. I guess the zoning went in, you say, what, 2000?
Just based on what I heard just a minute ago, I can't tell you for sure.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Mr. Martin? Mr. Martin, would you like to say anything else right quick, or I know you're going to get a chance to come back up.
I think I'll reserve the rest of the time for John Arthur.
Yeah, we want to make sure we give everybody plenty of time, though. Okay. Mr. Eves?
Mr. President, if I may interject, Mr. Eves would like to close. Is that correct?
Well, I think at this point, it is closing on the attorneys, and then y'all going to come back up as well, and you'll be able to rebuttal as well. So, we could give both sides plenty of time to state what they would like for the board to know. I like your map. It's big enough for us to see.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I'm John Arthur Eves, 753 North Old Canton Road. On myself, my family, and many of the citizens here. If you consider yourself in opposition of this rezoning, would you please raise your hands? Okay, thank you. This was my parents' home. They built this home wanting to have a family home for future generations. I will say this, that I'm not here to disparage anyone. These developers are good men. From everything I know about them, they have been willing to try to work this out, and we would love to have done that. There's some things we just can't get around. And so I'd like to bring out something that has not been brought out before. If I could stand around here, and then I'd also like to ask that this map that I've presented here be entered into the record here.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd like to go ahead and get a motion on the map entered into the record. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Motion Supervisor Griffith, I'll second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. 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 All opposed.
Okay.
It's entered.
Can I stand around here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So let me, turn your microphone around, John. Turn your microphone around where you can kind of pick up.
Got extra.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. So this map here, this is North Old Canton Road. My house, or the house of my parents that I live in currently, is right here. And it backs up here, all the way here, to where the subdivision. And then this is the proposed area here. Across here, this is the Denbury plant, or now owned by Exxon, that pumps out CO2. Okay, neither me nor the Yandell family probably knew at the time that we were sitting on the largest concentration of CO2, medical grade CO2, in the southeast, and all that is up under here, for which my family receives a check every month, and I would imagine that the Yandell family does as well. I don't know them. But the trouble, as a practitioner of law since 1990, is I've dealt with gas breakages at Heidelberg, Mississippi, and other places across the country. But my concern has been this well that is here, and then there's another one on the other side of me, not reflected in the map. But these pipelines here are large pipelines with CO2 gas. They pump this out, and it goes across the southeast over to Louisiana, I believe Alabama, maybe even up into Tennessee. And the concern that I have is that we have another incident like Sartarsha, Mississippi. If you're aware of that incident, it was a main breakage there, sent 46 people to the hospital. And while I'm hopeful that never happens, I'm hopeful and prayerful that never happens, but that's my concern here today. And that is that this proposal has people living about 30 feet away from where this comes in and out, which is the highest risk area. In Sartarsha, the people that were sent to the hospital were at least a quarter mile away. And so CO2 is a naturally occurring gas, as we all know. That's what we breathe out and the plants breathe in and all that from basic school. But the problem is it's in great concentration. A cloud of CO2 can be a deadly thing, especially for the people very close to it. Not to mention the possibility of H2S gas and some of those much more dangerous gases. But the CO2 itself, I think, proposes a risk to me. And my concern is this. So we have major construction here. I'm sure if everything went according to plan, that none of those bulldozer operators would run into any of these pipes or anybody would dig too deep. But I've been around long enough to know that accidents happen. And that is a major concern that I think needs to be addressed here. Now, when we think about this, it's not just that. It's how do we get out? How do I get out of this road? Now, according to my simple calculations, we're talking about 833 lots, and depending on how many cars you got in each house. Usually it's a man and his wife. That's going to be 2 cars. If every house has 2 cars in the morning headed out, that's 1,666 cars that are now adding to the population of the road. If you've got 3 cars, you got a teenager in the house, and you've got somewhere around 2,499 cars leaving every day. In the event there was this accident, how are these people going to get out of here? And I don't think we've addressed that yet. I don't think we've heard from that. I don't think we've researched that enough. And I don't think that these guys have all those answers. I think the real answers are there with Exxon and Denbury. And so my ask at the end of the day here from you is very simple. One, I'm going to ask you on behalf of these concerned citizens, because of these concerns, the traffic, the schools, all those things, I'm going to ask you to deny this request. But if you can't deny this request, then I'm going to ask you to at least do more research here. And so what I've done is I've come up with a list of 10 questions here. And my request asked for you to consider is to write letters or requests or use your tools to get the information from Denbury and to do a reasonable investigation before we put the health and safety of not only the people that are currently here today, but the people that may live in this subdivision before we put them and their lives at risk. And I'll just run through those questions for the record. What is the communication between Denbury Exxon concerning the location of these pipelines? How deep are they buried? What material are they made of? Have there been any studies or assessments done on the evacuation process in the case of a rupture, breach, or leakage? Have there been any assessments done on the construction or hauling that would disturb the pipelines? Have there been any assessments or studies done concerning whether construction of houses, road, ponds would present any risk of these breach? Has there been any collaboration with the local Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality, Fire Department, Oil and Gas Board to consider or coordinate the monitoring of the air quality in this area and the procedures for evacuation in the event of disturbance of the pipeline? Does the local EMS have the ability to monitor the neighborhood long-term to ensure safety of air pollution? Is the Denbury Exxon aware of the proposed construction and its potential impacts on the long-term operation and maintenance of the pipeline? And finally, are there any insurance policies sufficient to cover the liability of all the residents' personal injuries that are located within the 1.5 mile in case there is a rupture or breach? Those are my questions, and I thank you for your time and consideration of these important issues today.
All right, from the board, are there any questions for Mr. Eves? If not, it's very interesting you bring this up, well, hold on one second. You say you live on North Oak Canton, or you live on Yandle Road currently?
No, sir, I live on North Oak Canton. When you go down North Oak Canton Road and there's a big house that looked like it was in the movies, that was my parents' dream. That's the one I live in.
Point it out on that map.
Yeah, my house is right here. It's got if you look at it from the air, you can look down, it's a big heart on the driveway. And then I got a barn here with some thoroughbred horses back here. And my family, I have family that lives back in here, and I have family that lives over here as well.
Okay. Was that, I guess the pipeline come in after you built?
Well, it wasn't me. My parents built the house, and the pipeline came after. Yes, sir.
So it did come after?
Yes, sir.
And did they oppose that at that time, or do you know?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know they had some concerns about it.
Right.
Given our litigation experience with these big things, we were concerned about it. I remember them being concerned, but I don't know if they spoke to us publicly or not.
So it was your parents' house, and now it's your house?
Well, it's divided between me and my sisters.
Okay, but you live there, though?
Yes, sir.
You live there currently?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I attempt.
That's a large area there.
It's a large area, and I attempt to maintain it. Yes, sir.
It is. All right.
There is a place here. Denbury accesses it here. I don't know how they get to that. I imagine out this way. It looks like there's some little light here. I don't know. I've never been to the plane. I hear it all night when it's.
Yeah. It come in from Oak Canton
through
Road,
12 Oaks. Thank you.
12 Oaks.
12 Oaks, yeah. 12 Oaks.
This thing goes off all night long. That's why my parents left this big wooded area here. Kind of muffle that a little bit.
Yeah, it will. Are there other questions for Mr. Eves? From the board, that is.
Oh.
I'm sure there are going to be many questions, but I appreciate you handing out this as well. I would like to put this in the minutes as well, or would you like for this?
I'm asking if you would consider putting that in the minutes. Thank you so much.
Do I have a motion for this question to be in the minutes? Motion from Supervisor Griffith, second from Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you for this. You bet. Blake, I don't want to get out. You can come up and, okay, you can come up and, okay.
Again, Blake Kress.
Makes it, the mic should be on there.
This one, Mark?
No, that's
That's a skinny one.
yeah. You don't want to get in that.
Okay,
small.
there we go. All right, just a quick response to Mr. Eves. We work with Denbury all the time, now Exxon. We cross these all the time. We don't actually cross them without direct supervision by Denbury. Our plans go to Denbury's engineers. They are reviewed by them. They are sometimes altered by them so that we don't make mistakes like that. They tell us the depths of their pipes. They're on site before we're allowed to cross them. They work with our engineers to design all the crossings. I offered some information to Mr. Eves, some contacts at Denbury that I have that can answer these questions for each one of you. They are very, very involved with every aspect of the crossings, or anybody that's, whether it's the power company or the utility company or us just our road grades going across this. So just want to make sure this board understands. We work directly with Denbury, and we work under their supervision when we make these crossings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Blake. Since Blake got up, Mr. Noble, would you like to say anything at this point? Don't have to. I just, Blake just got up, so I just want to give everybody equal share of time. So, okay, at this point, then I would like to, or we would like to hear from the audience here and those that in opposition to this. If you would, Greg, you have a list. We can start with your list.
Actually, I'd like to start with me, if I may.
Hold on one second, Mr. Lott. No, step back down. We're not going to break line like this.
Okay.
Come on.
Yep.
Come on. Sit back down.
Sure, I
All
can
right,
start
Greg.
at the top of the list and go down.
Yeah, I'd like to start at the top of the list and go down, and that way we can keep it all in order. And if you would, please come up with 2 minutes and just state your name, give your address for 2 minutes. And then what we'd like to do is, after everyone on the list that is signed in, then we'll ask if anyone hasn't signed in, would they like to speak? Mr. Lott, have you signed in?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay.
Because they all know that I was going to speak first, but you go ahead.
Okay, that's okay. But we want to give everybody the opportunity to speak. And we just want to keep it organized. So, Greg, if you would, just state the first 2 off, and then that way we can.
Sure. First one, I'm kind of guessing at some of these names. I think that's Kate Johnson, and then another Johnson, whose first name I can't quite read. I'm sorry.
All right, is Kate there, Mr. Johnson? Okay.
I'm not Kate.
No, I see.
My name is William Johnson. I live at 101 Sagefield Square in the Sagefield development. Mr. Eves mentioned previously, but I'd just like to reemphasize that the 2-car families, possibly 3-car families, we're talking in the morning rush hour going to work. Okay, sorry. Out onto Clarkdale Road, a narrow 2-lane road with big drainage ditches on each side. We already have a backup of traffic on that, getting out onto Yandell or Green Oak. If we add in another 1,400 or 1,500 cars every morning going to work, the only concession they make in the traffic study to Clarkdale Road is a turn lane right at Yandell and right at Green Oak. It's a nightmare waiting to happen to add that many more traffic in the morning, every workday morning. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Next.
All right, next up is Michelle Miller or David Miller.
I guess it'd be Mr. and Mrs. Miller. Both of y'all can come up if you'd like to speak now. Okay. Okay, and please state your name and give your address, please, for the record.
My name is David Miller. I live at 103 Sagefield Square. I represent the 44 homes in our subdivision. It's a small subdivision by most standards, but it is zoned R1. I find it interesting that our subdivision has been neglected and mentioned in any of the proposals here. We purchased this home 4 years ago when I retired from government service. 42 years of life savings to make a purchase and a home to settle in. We researched this community, and this is the area that we settled upon. It had everything we wanted, and it offered convenience to a lot of services. Unfortunately, the traffic situation is, I won't go much into that. I'm sure the board is fully aware that the traffic is horrendous in this area now, and it's only gotten worse. And I haven't heard any talk of widening Clarkdale Road, but with a single entrance in and out of this proposed subdivision, it seriously raises some concerns in my mind as well as the rest of the folks in our community. Where I've lived previously, it was stated that we needed some deaths before they could do something about the road situation. I don't know if that is really a fact around here, but I know that with the addition of this, the traffic load on that road, the children that will certainly be moving into these areas does present a safety risk. Our own access in and out is seriously hampered currently, in part because of the construction, which I thank the board for pursuing, especially along Highway 51 there at Green Oaks. It will help us, but we only have the two ways in and out, and both of them are on Clarkdale Road. And with this congestion, I think it'll further hamper our ability to also evacuate should there's a problem with this pipeline. We live within a mile of the proposed subdivision, so we would certainly be in an evacuation zone. Again, congesting traffic, people trying to leave this area. Services, I find interesting that the only home in our subdivision currently up for sale is the one owned by the general manager of the water company, and it went up shortly after he stated that there would be services available. It's still for sale. I can't speak to his reasoning, but the timing is sure interesting. Other than that, of course, issues with schooling and transportation of the students also raises concerns. That when we talk about 1,500 more vehicles on Clarkdale, these folks don't just go to work, they come home from work. They have delivery trucks, they have lawn services. Most folks in the United States, from statistics, move every 3 or 4 years. So we got moving trucks now on that road. And unless there's a plan to widen Clarkdale, which I'm not aware of, I believe that's also a consideration needs to be looked into. Other than that, I thank the board for allowing me the time to speak to you.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Miller. Next
All
person.
right. Katie McCluskey.
I don't want to speak, but I'll move on to the next.
Katie, you don't want to speak at all? Okay, next.
Norman and Teresa Chappell.
All right. Mr. and Mrs. Chappell.
Good morning. My name's Norm Chappell. My wife Teresa and I built our house in Sagefield, 112 Sagefield Square, over 20 years ago. One of the reasons we did choose to live and build our house in Sagefield was because of the R1 designation. We felt like this was in our best interest economically. We've enjoyed our time in the Madison County area, And our concern primarily stems on the proposed change from R1 to R2 and how that could negatively impact our property values. You've heard presented information on concerns of congestion, overcrowded schools, utilities, fire and police service. All of those are legitimate concerns. I know that growth and development are inevitable. We're not begrudging the Yandle family or the developers the opportunity to make money and take advantage of that growth and development. But we ask that there be some consideration to a compromise that would, again, maintain our property values, allow for development, but in a more controlled situation where you have larger lots, larger square footage homes that would accommodate that development and yet maintain or minimize exorbitant growth in terms of traffic, congestion, crowded schools, and so forth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Next.
All right, next is Jonathan Swales, I'm hoping.
And who's the next behind him?
Sam Martin, but I'm guessing we already heard from that one. So Matt and Christy Walker.
Okay.
I'm Jonathan Swales, 105 Country Lane, right across from the proposed rezoning area. And I'm sort of semi-retired. I've worked hard, lived in subdivisions where party next door, cars parked in the yards and stuff, and I was proud to be able to get this 2 acres of land, have a home, have a shop, good neighbors, and where you can have a garden, relax, and not have people right up on top of you there. Well, I know we have the road situation. We got a taste of it when y'all had the detour coming down Clarkdale doing the bridge replacement down there by the meadows, and that was a fiasco, trying to put that many more cars on this farm to market road. It wasn't nothing but ditches dug out, gravel put on top when it was created. But I wish you wouldn't deny people the other opportunity that I have to get 2 acres and have a good place to live at, want to retire and stay in Madison County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. And Mr. Walker? Yes, sir.
Good morning, men. Gentlemen, thank you for the job that you do. Appreciate the opportunity to come and speak to you this morning. My wife, Christy, and I, she was not able to be here this morning. We live at 215 Clarkdale Road. And again, I wanted to recognize, I emailed the petition. Everybody couldn't be here this morning, work, out of town, and so forth. We have right at, I think it's close to 440 names on that petition. I emailed that to all you gentlemen. Mr. Steen, yours bumped back for some reason. I may have hit the wrong email, but can get that to you. We have hard copies that'll be presented later on by Mrs. Cody Harris. But very similar, we've heard a lot about traffic this morning. Quickly, I'd like to tell you just Matt and Christy Walker, our quick story. It's very similar to the men and women in this room right now. In the education field, my wife is in her 25th year in public school, teaching, 2 daughters. We were in our first home with 708 North Cathy Circle, an R2 subdivision. Loved it. Our 2 little girls at the time learned to walk, learned to ride a bike. But we weren't worried about them getting run over by cars either. And so we have fond memories of R2 subdivision here in the city of Canton. We sacrificed a great deal. We paid our house off in 11 years, and we were able to purchase the home that we have now in 2015. It's ironic, back in the zoning commission meeting, we heard a lot about traffic. It was brought up, and I made the statement that Yandle Road should have been 5 lanes 10 years ago. And it wasn't a week later, my wife got a Facebook memory that popped up on her Facebook back in 2016, 8 years ago. She was running a few minutes late, dropping our girls off at Madison Crossing, there on Yandle Road, and she took a picture. It was standstill, it was bumper-to-bumper traffic, all the way from the school, all the way west to Highway 51. That was 8 years ago. Now we're hearing that infrastructure is coming, all right? If, pardon my expression, if history is any indicator of future performance, we have our doubts and questions. What has not been brought up yet is all the other subdivisions that are already done. Their road engineer that also spoke back on August the 8th said that the grade for traffic is an F. All right, A, excellent, B, good, C, average, D, poor, F is failing. Now, I don't know what the grade is that's worse than an F, but that's what's getting ready to happen with all the other expansions that are already going on right now. Those are a done deal. And so with all that extra traffic we're talking about on Yandle Road, we're talking about across from Deerfield, if you keep going east until you hit Highway 43, take a right going south until you hit the reservoir, Brown's Landing, all of those new homes, that's coming. Next 6 months, 18 months, 24 months, whatever the time period is. And the young lady, sheriff that was sitting in your chair that brought up the question, we asked as a body, has anyone ridden on these roads that to experience what we experience twice a day, going to work, coming back? And she had 2 different times, and she verified it's horrible. It's terrible. So quickly, the traffic issue. Schools. My wife, like I said, is in her 25th year. We have 2 daughters that have come up, beautiful, great memories about Madison County School Districts, tremendous leadership. But we have a nationwide teacher shortage, and Madison County is not immune to that shortage. Why are teachers dying to hurry up and get to year 25 or now year 30 to be fully vested? They are burnt out. They are the classrooms. My oldest daughter, she has 30 in her dual credit math class, 30. We heard from the same lady that she looked it up, roughly 24-1 is optimal. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find one high school teacher, any middle school teacher, any elementary school teacher that thinks that ratio, yes, please give me more students in my classroom. I want 30-1. That's not going to happen. Why is that important as an educator? The good students for the most environments will do fine, okay? What about the others? The more one-on-one attention, hands-on, different students have different learning capabilities. Depending on their home life, what kind of chaos is going on at the house. When they go to the school, that's the one chance that they have at stability, at normalcy, okay, of being reached, and growth. And so, look, we're not saying this is a one-all fix-all right here, but we're asking you men, please, take a stand. Let's don't compound the problem that we're hearing about. You gentlemen, and again, thank you so much for your service and the time, but what an opportunity to be a part of the solution. I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, Mary and Steve Grantham.
All right, Mr. Grantham. And who's after him, Greg?
Dana Lott.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Steve Grantham, 728 North Old Canton Road, Canton, Mississippi, 39046. My wife and I have lived in this community for 25 years. We built or bought our property in 1998 to come to the country, come to Madison, and start our family. And we've been here ever since. A lot's been said this morning about the traffic congestion. And one of the points that I took from the gentleman from MDOT was that even though the 4-laning of Yandell Road is proposed, that the $170 million that it's going to cost to widen that road, put a center turn lane in, is 3 years out, and it's going to require approval by the legislature to provide that funding. And as we all know, there's plenty of pockets to go around when you're looking at statewide funding on other things that come up that are bigger priorities than this road. Even if they got the money for the road, people are going to come off of that road, going up Clarkdale, going around the back of North Old Canton, going up North Old Canton to Hoy, trying to go across to 51 where the bridge is coming over, putting excessive traffic onto 51, which is not going to be alleviated at the light at Yandell and 51. So you're basically bottlenecking the traffic through a 4-lane into basically a 2-lane infrastructure with no ability to go north or south except on a 2-lane highway. So that's one issue. The second, I know Mr. Kress and Arthur, great folks, good friends. Mr. Kress said he talks to Exxon and Denbury all the time when they go to work on one of these kind of projects. I talked to Matt O'Brien at Denbury yesterday, asked him about what their position was on this. He told me point blank that Denbury and Exxon tried to stay away from these type of rezoning issues. But I know that companies that big, having worked for Verizon for 25 years, they don't do anything without a policy. They don't do anything without a manual. So I would suggest if this conversation goes forward, that we at least request a copy of their disaster recovery document, their evacuation plan, and then what their policies and procedures are, having a third party that's working within a close proximity of one of their plants or one of their easements that they have pipes under. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate your service.
Mr. Grantham, I would like to say that I think the $170 million that Commissioner Simmons was referring to
Yes, sir.
was for the widening of the interstate
Okay.
from 463.
I misheard it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to make sure, I might have misunderstood what you were saying as well, but I'm thinking you was referring to the $170 million that we're asking the legislature and he as well, you know, to give to MDOT to widen the interstate to where the ramps can be installed on the new bridge that's being built.
Thank you very much.
That's okay. Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Grantham.
Supervisors, my name is Dana Lott, and I live at 174 Clarkdale Road. I am a licensed real estate agent for the state of Mississippi, and my neighbors asked me to look on MLS and provide the board with the statistics of the housing market as it pertains to Madison County. Currently, as of September the 11th, 2024, there are 485 homes for sale in Madison County. This number does not reflect any homes that might be for sale by owner or under construction that the builders have not currently listed on MLS. This number also does not reflect the subdivision coming in across the street of Yandell Road that D.R. Horton has already had approval to develop. This is what I find the most interesting about the 485 homes for sale in Madison County. Of that number, there are 96 homes for sale, all of which are off of Yandell Road. So if you look at the numbers, that is almost 1/4 of the homes listed in Madison County are off of Yandell Road. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Dana.
All right, next is Julie White.
Oh, wait a minute, I forgot to say one
sorry.
thing. I provided for the record, I gave each supervisor a listing of every home for sale in Madison County that is on Yandell Road, and I gave each one of y'all a copy. I forgot to make it to your attention.
Yeah, you got it right here.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Would you like for that to be in the minutes?
I would.
Okay, do I have a motion for that to be entered into the minutes?
Motion.
Motion Supervisor Griffin, second Supervisor Banks. Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye, all opposed. It's in the minutes.
All right, next is Julie White.
Miss Julie?
Okay.
Raise your hand anyway and let us see you. Okay.
All right, and Tiffany Grant.
Okay, Ms. Grant?
My name is Tiffany Grant. I live at 157 Dove Cove, Canton, Mississippi. I've owned this property for well over 20 years. I've observed the traffic changes in the area, some good, some bad. With the addition of even 1,000 more cars on little bitty Country Lane, Clarkdale Road, it's going to be really, really waiting for an accident to happen. I often use the junction of Quail Hollow and Clarkdale Road to travel north or south. I feel very secure traveling south on my Clarkdale Road to Green Oak Lane because I'm turning right. It's easy. Turning left, it's a little bit risky because your cars are zooming over the hill. The grass has grown up, the trees have grown up, and the road is just not made for traffic. Clarkdale Road is a canopied road. If you widen it, you're going to be destroying 100-year-old oak trees that were planted by the original landowners, the Clarks. Now, road improvements. I've lived along this road a long time. They've promised us the traffic light at 51 in Green Oak for over a decade. Now, I don't have that strictly as research numbers because I didn't come prepared to do this, but I will believe all of this road infrastructure improvements when I see it. So I'm going to be from Missouri and say, show me.
Thank you. All right, who's next on the list?
William Fitz.
All right, Mr. William Fitz. Who's next?
All right, Paul S. White is the last name I have on my list.
Mr. White?
Again, I'm Paul White, live at 210 Clarkdale Road. Been there for 25 years. That property was actually originally part of Yendo's property. At one time, one of their, I believe he was a supervisor or something for the farm, actually lived in that house. Under the staircase, there's actually still pictures hanging from where their kids had drawn pictures under that staircase. I left them there. Previous owners left them there. If any of y'all have lived in a country atmosphere, you probably have experienced the same thing I have. My kids have grown up. I came from Memphis. My kids couldn't run around the neighborhood. We didn't have a neighborhood. My kids were able to ride their bikes on Clarkdale Road to go visit the neighbors. And the neighbors happened to be where Matt lives now. Traffic is horrendous. I've actually placed a call to your phone line. And from where I sit, it's going to come in on the east side of me, and it's going to be on the north side of me. I can't tell you how many houses are going to actually back up and come up to my property. I am concerned about property value. Right now, the traffic is horrendous, and the people traveling up and down that road have no respect for what we're doing now. Weekly, I have to pick up the trash out of the ditch. Mine is one of the few, or one of the ones that pretty much stays cut, and the ditch is relatively accessible for people to just throw it out and you see it. I hadn't picked it up this weekend. If any one of y'all would like to drive through and see all the Sonic, all the fast food, beer cans, everything thrown into my ditch. I really think this is going to be detrimental to anybody that has property out there, and it's going to degrade our value drastically.
Thank you, Mr. White.
And I belong to Julie, so
Okay.
that's why she refrained.
All right, thank you. Are there any others?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Lott. Hold on one second. We'll get to you, Mr. Lott.
Let Cody go.
Or do you want to speak?
I will eventually. Let Cody go.
Okay, come on up then. And we're going to get to anyone that didn't have a chance to sign in. When I ask, just raise your hand and we'll ask you to come up front.
Good morning. My name is Cody Harris. I live at 136 Country Lane. I've lived there my whole life. I grew up there. Little country road. If you drive by it, you probably miss it. I am here opposing the rezoning, as well as many other people here are. What you see there is a petition we have. Of course, it's informal. We still are adding names. It has well over 437 names now opposing this rezoning. And I'm going to make it very brief. I know you guys have heard a lot. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening to what we have to say. I would like to leave you with a quote by the well-known martyr, Mr. Martin Luther King Jr. Never, never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. Please, I urge you to vote no for this rezoning. Thank you.
Okay. And you would like for this petition to be entered into the minutes?
On the record, yes, sir, please, in the minutes. Thank you.
Okay, got a motion, Supervisor Griffin, I'll second for this petition be entered into the minutes. Discussion, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Aye. Okay, it is entered. Anyone else? Mr. Ross, I saw your hand go up first. So we're gonna get to each one of you, so.
My name is David Ross. I live at 154 Sagefield Square. Obviously, I'm here in opposition. Many of the things have been said. I'm not going to repeat all of them. I moved out there 20-plus years ago with the intentions of living there the rest of my life, except for maybe the last few years or so. We'll just wait and see how that works out. But traffic is obviously one of the key issues. If you try to get out of our subdivision, most of the time, you have to look, if you want to pull out, whether you want to go right or left, you have to look left and make sure there's nothing coming at least past Oakfield before you get your foot on the accelerator and look to the right and hope there's nothing coming around the curve and not even showing. And I know Randy knows what goes on out through there, because if there's a car sticking his nose out in the curve, you ain't got a chance. Even if you drive the way I used to 20 years ago, or 40 years ago maybe. So it's terrible. And it's not just that. There's cars coming one right behind the other. Not only are they driving fast, but they're steady. One of the things that I ask, and obviously I'm against it, is that why not look at another way for these cars to get out of this subdivision? You got, what we talk, 1,200 cars, 1,600 cars, 2,000 cars. Why don't we find another way to get out? You got Old Canton Road. Excuse me, I'm sorry, Old Canton Road people. And I know Yandle doesn't need any more traffic, but let's leave Clarkdale alone. It's already got traffic. It's got plenty of traffic now. With Oakfield and Bear Creek and everything that's coming out now, they're going both ways, and they're going, excuse me, WLBT. My wife tells me I can't talk without moving my hands. But you can. Everybody's going to be going to 51 now to the light too. So people from Oakfield are going to be going that way, and people from Oakfield are going to be going the other way too. So, and obviously we're going to be doing the same thing. But please, please look at the whole picture. And obviously, since the attorneys brought the attention about the gas situation, that's something to think about. And I know their contractors have thought about that and looked into it. But just look at everything here. And I hope y'all at least table this before you go any further, because I don't think it's that easy of a decision. It's not a bam, bam, bam. Let's look at it and think about it all the way around. Don't look at it just as an easy question to answer. So thank you for your time. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Anyone else? Yes, sir. I'm sorry. The lady on the front row, she's raised her hand 2 or 3 times. I'll get you next. Please come. That's okay. Just pull the mic down.
I'm Cheryl Williams. I live at 135 Twin Cedars Lane. It's a cul-de-sac off of Clarksdale Road. There's only 7 homes there. And I'm not a speaker, so excuse me, my voice is quivering.
You're fine.
But my husband and I moved there with the hopes of the country lifestyle. It was the one street off of Clarksdale that was not part of a subdivision. We own 3 acres. My husband, myself, and my mother live there. And we feel like we're in the country, but we're close to the town. So the traffic is horrible. The number of children moving in the area is really high. When we moved there was only 3 subdivisions on Clarkdale Road. Now there's 5 or 6, and they go on down Yandale. I don't know how many there are, but it's hundreds and hundreds of folks that have moved in the area, and we're no longer able to ride our bikes on the street because of the traffic that's in the area, and we're confined to the home. On Clarkdale, there's nowhere to safely walk, so if we have to walk, we have to go over in one of the subdivisions, but the traffic, you just don't feel safe on the road, so I am opposed to this. We want to stay in the area. I'm a UMC employee, retired after 25 years. My husband owned the ED delivery and sold his business, so we are retired. We do live there. We're there 24 hours a day, and we are opposed to this, and I just wanted to speak. I feel strongly about what everyone said here, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Yes, sir, gentleman there on the front. And ma'am, you can come on up as well if you like. Yes, sir.
My name is David Stallings. I live at 103 Densing Farm Cove off of North Old Canton. All that property up north of us is what we're talking about here. Mr. Eves earlier spoke in terms of the Denbury gas pipelines that are over there. One of the things I wanted to make sure everybody is aware of, that pipelines in the United States are governed and regulated by the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations 49. And there are mandates of things that they have to do that are federal law. And just want to make sure that when you start looking into his things, that you also take that into account. PHMSA, PHMSA, and Mr. Barton, if I get this right, I gave you the paper. It's the Pipeline Hazardous Materials SASA something administration. I'm sorry. I can't remember the acronym exactly, but it deals specifically with pipelines. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for that info as well.
And also, just so y'all know, I agree with everything else that's been said.
All right, thank you. We kindly took that being that way.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Robin Merrill. I live at 198 Clarkdale Road. This property is just south and adjacent to our house. My husband and I looked for several years to find acreage because he is from a rural area where he grew up, and we wanted to have a couple acres, but we wanted to also be close to my 93-year-old mom who lives in Madison. And this was sufficient to fit both of ours. We have 2.5 acres. This would end up, from the way that the maps that they have, I would end up with 7, I think, lots that it would be adjacent to ours, depending on what ends up being reworked. I know that over the summer, with all the extra traffic that has been on the road due to the bridges on Yandle, getting my mail even out of the mailbox has become an Olympic event. I have learned how to jump out of the road real quick because there's a slight curve to the south and there's just a little bit of a hill to the north, and you can't even get the mail out of the mailbox without cars that are going a little bit over the speed limit, Mr. Tucker. But it kind of happens every day. Now, I also do title work for a living. So I actually research titles on property. And I could say that there are at least 10 new subdivisions within the same square footage requirements, and I did not bring all the plats of them, that have been approved over at least the last 18 months. And of those, some are on the east side of 55, some are on the west side. But there's also a subdivision that has been recently approved in Gluckstadt of 425 homes. So the need for actual homes for the Amazon plant is not actually as great as what the developers are expressing. But, you know, I just wanted to voice my opinion. I really think that no one would be opposed to the property being R1, because that's what it is. That's what I knew it was when I bought my house. And, you know, R2 I'm vehemently opposed to. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Robin, I would say that if you are getting your mail consistently, you're probably doing better than most of us. But I know it's dangerous when you go to the mailbox.
It is at the street, and I usually have to, you know, I learned to jump real quick,
I know.
you know, because there's cars coming.
I understand. All right, next, yes, ma'am. Please come up and just state your name, give the address, please.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Remore, and I work with Keller Williams Real Estate. I represent one of the developers. I live at 126 Ashton Park, and I've been living in Madison for 26 years. Wanted to say that I heard the attorney against say that we can accommodate the people coming in and the growth from the neighborhoods off Catlett and Stripling and other roads on the west side of the interstate. There's something in real estate called the affordability index. What we're going to be building is going to be in the affordability index, where there's two people in a home working with young kids. They're trying to make a living and make a home for their children. And so if you look at possibly a Greyhawk subdivision, it's going to be very well done. I will say I've sold over 2,000 homes in the past 17 years, and I've been at the top 1% of MLS every year in sales. So I say that only for credibility, for the fact that I lose people every day to Rankin County, because you can go to Rankin County and get houses so much less because we're not building smaller houses in Madison. And I understand completely about R2 lots and R1 lots. However, not every family can afford a $700,000 house. There are many families that are emerging, they're working very hard, and they want to be able to live in Madison and send their children to great schools. And what's happening is I get referrals across the nation, and they work with some of my agents, and they say, we can't afford to be in Madison County. So that's what Blake and Arthur are trying to do, is bring in some lovely homes, some places that people can make a home for themselves in Madison County. There's a huge level of the affordability index that we're not servicing. I dare say in MLS, out of the 450 plus houses that are on the market, I know statistically many of those are above 500,000. So I do understand 100% about the traffic issues, and definitely that's something for us to address. However, I want others to enjoy a life of Madison County also.
Thank you. Would I say that?
I said 126 Ashton Park.
Hey, let's just address the board. If y'all want to talk outside, that's fine, but let's just address the board, you know, that. So I would take that you're in favor of this.
Yes, I'm representing the developers.
Okay, there you go. Thank you, ma'am. All right, others? Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Joe Ray. I live at 125 Bear Creek Circle, which feeds into the road that we've been talking about.
Clarkdale Road?
Clarkdale Road. I have one question that you brought up earlier about renting or leasing on these new homes. I've got a question. Which one of you gentlemen?
Hey, if you would, just address the board, please, sir. And let
Well,
us,
I needed to find out which one of the developers did there are two new subdivisions that have been there, I think, a year, 2 years now. And I'm assuming that these gentlemen were the developers.
What's the name of the subdivision? Do you recall?
It's one of the newest ones that they developed. It has smaller homes in it, and Oakfield. Your question to them was, will any of these new homes on these R2 lots be able to be leased or rented?
That's right.
Ask these gentlemen how many homes that they have, that they built in these two, in the, what was the name of the subdivision? Oakfield, that they're renting right now because they couldn't sell them. Just ask them that question.
Well, I don't really, I mean, the board member can, but I don't really think we need to get into that discussion.
Well,
as
the
much.
reason I'm asking it, if they tell you, we're not gonna have anything in our covenant where we're gonna lease or rent homes. Look at all the development that's coming up right across from Deerfield Golf Course and Deerfield subdivision. I don't know how many homes are going to be coming in there. Right. Deerfield, right there at the golf course, they just built 7 or 8 homes. Nobody's bought one. And this is the thing, they're telling you everything's based on need, and I don't see that. I really don't. But that's, it's time for lunch, and thank you for letting me say that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Are there any others that would like to speak in opposition? Yes, sir. Okay.
It's the Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Scott Simpson. I live at 111 Cherry Rose Trail. I am not a native Mississippian. I have lived in Denver, Colorado, New Orleans, Louisiana, Atlanta, Georgia, Nashville, Tennessee. I am a physician. I take care of kids with heart problems, and so I have the honor of caring for your kids, your grandkids, and your neighbors' kids. When I'm on call, if there's a child that has an urgent issue, they're going to come see me. I was recruited here from out of state. When I initially moved, we settled in Madison on the west side of 55, and I couldn't wrap my mind around the infrastructure, the lack of infrastructure compared to the housing. So we moved to the east side of 55 where it felt a little different. It felt a little bit more established, better sort of quality of life that I was looking for my family and I. And it feels a little bit like a bait and switch because I feel like that area is kind of defined as a R1 area, and to do this kind of post after a lot of people have invested a lot of their personal money in their home, it just feels not right. I don't have anything new to add aside from what has been stated previously. I would say Madison is a great place to live. I feel like the county puts a little bit horse before the cart because it builds a bunch of houses without any infrastructure. If you look at 463, you look at Gluckstadt, Bozeman, all those roads are 2-lane roads with huge housing developments to go up. And it's almost like it's an afterthought about building infrastructure to support the housing that's built. And I don't know why that is. All those cities I've lived have never experienced that. So I would urge you to vote no on this Clarkdale proposition.
Thank you, Doctor.
What was your name?
Scott Simpson.
Scott Simpson.
SCOTTSIMPSON. And I obviously am representing as a concerned citizen, not in a professional capacity.
Others? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you. Carrie Henley, 115. Carrie Henley, and I live at 115 Sagefield Square. Just 2 quick points because I know everybody's getting hungry.
Take your time.
So I've heard a recurring theme today with people talking about how they've moved, from saved up or retired to this area with larger lots. It's the same thing my husband and I did. We lived in what is an R2 subdivision for 10 years and have saved up and moved to Sagefield, and we're happy to be there. But my point is that we're not talking about, whether or not houses can be built on this area at all. It's just how many. Well, when you build those houses with larger lots, people are moving from established R2 areas and homes to those, upgrading, I guess you could say, or moving and leaving homes vacant that are more affordable maybe for people starting out. So it's not a matter of, no homes or homes, it's how many. But I think it's still, any homes there address the need because they make the R2 homes available in other areas of the county. And the other thing I just wanted to say is it's the traffic issue on Clarkdale. It's not really just an inconvenience. It really is a safety. There's no shoulder there. You don't have to be going very fast to have a really serious accident, especially in the age of distracted drivers and cell phones. And I have 2 teenage drivers. And so I really want to just stress that we're talking about, really public health and safety, not just it's an inconvenience.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Henley. Are there any others? Yes, sir.
I didn't think I was going to raise my hand. Alex Gerchow, I live at 140 Country Lane. We bought the house 3 years ago at the age of 27. Figured it was good to come up here. I don't think there was too many people that young that bought a house. Bought 2 acres. It was the only house in our price range of 2 acres when we looked to buy a house. So bought that house, pulled the trigger, same as everyone else here, under the impression that that's what this area is going to stay, a country area. I heard something that wasn't planning on speaking today, heard that kind of resonated with me that the attorney over here spoke about was the absorption rate of 25% today. So you have an absorption rate of 25% today. The solution, there's houses being built on Yandell, multiple neighborhoods. They're proposing to build a neighborhood that we've been told will be complete in 10 to 12 years. I don't think that has much to do with the absorption rate today. That's really all I had to say.
All righty. Thank you. Thank you. Are there any others? Mr. Lott?
Yes, sir.
I think you're up. You can close us out as far as you're quite welcome.
I got the time.
I
I
see
see
you
here
getting
too,
that
as
with
well
a
as
piece of
everybody
paper.
else did.
Put the mic down.
Pull it down? Boy, that's tall. Okay, here I go. Let me get it started. Bang. I'm Ronnie Lott. I'm not here as Chancery Clerk, but as a concerned citizen. I live at 174 Clarkdale Road, which is my driveway, basically. Been sitting here too long. My driveway is a short distance from the proposed entrance and exit for this project. I want to start by saying that I have the utmost respect for the developers, but we stand on different sides in this issue. I'm here to object to the proposed zoning change. I respect the rights of the landowners to develop their property, but I do not see the need for quarter-acre lots. This does not fit the character of the neighborhood. All of us here moved to an R1 neighborhood. We were allowed to invest our time and money to live in this area free from the congestion and confusion caused by multiple homes on smaller lots, 800 homes, and the massive influx of people and vehicles this would bring to our quiet country living area. By design, there's only one R2 subdivision across the interstate. Madison County doesn't need any more of them. These are our dream homes. Our lifetime savings are poured into this land and this neighborhood. Unless you're telling us we did build on the wrong side of the interstate, allowing this zoning change will destroy those dreams. We do not want to compete with Rankin County. We live our lives there on a daily basis, enjoying the large lots and privacy of R1 zoning. This is not only a threat to that, but a danger to our property values. This board allowed us to invest our life savings in this area. Please don't put this at risk. Clarkdale Road, as they've said, is a small collector road with open ditches, no curb and gutter, narrow shoulders, and deep ditches. This development would increase our traffic by 60% on an already crowded road. This will endanger lives. I know personally all of you would not want to endanger lives. This board does not want to be responsible for the injury or death. I'm going to ignore that. Injury or death, if you'll allow me to, of its citizens who elected you to protect them. I'm almost done. Not to place them in danger. The construction traffic alone will destroy Clarkdale Road and our brand-new taxpayer bridge we just installed less than a year ago. You can't walk or bike on Clarkdale. As they've said, my wife has to walk through the woods, run across Clarkdale just to walk in Quail Hollow, just so she can walk our dog. I mean, this road is full of traffic and at capacity, and many times I have trouble just getting out of my driveway. I'm closing it up now. We will lose our Class 4 fire protection rating. Taxpayers will be forced to fund a new fire station and roundabout and ambulance. All the students will be going to the already crowded Germantown School District. The Oakville subdivision, which is adjacent and actually part of this, has added to crime in our area. There have been drug busts, shootings, and murders in the last year alone. We don't need any more of this. You've guaranteed us a promise of higher property values and crime, a crime-free area, and a good quality of life by many of the decisions that you've made at the Board of Supervisors. You've been good caretakers of our taxpayer money. You brought us in Amazon, Clark Beverage, Southern Beverage, Nissan, AWS, and others by preserving the core values of this great place to live. Don't turn away from these same values that brought these companies to us. Listen to our taxpayers and your own zoning board, which were appointed by you, and deny this request for all of us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Lott.
Good speech, Ronnie.
You know, at this time, there was many. Of course, I'm going to give each side an opportunity, or we will, to rebuttal. But before we do, I know I was hearing a constant theme about certain things, and I don't have the answer to them, but I know there's some people in this room that do. And one of them was law enforcement, and I know our sheriff is there. And I'm not sure whether he's prepared to speak upon law enforcement, where we are, how growth would affect this area as far as law enforcement. Are there anything, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I would like to ask you, are there anything in law enforcement that we need to know? Because it was mentioned 2 or 3 times or more about crime, that is.
I love to talk. I'll talk anytime. But, I mean, obviously, when there's a growth in population in any given area, you're going to have an increase in traffic offenses, and with an increase in the population comes an increase in a crime rate. Don't know what that crime's going to be. Don't know if it's misdemeanor crime, property crimes, shootings, or what those are going to be. But obviously, when the human element's involved, crime's going to come with it. And that's in any area. That's not specific to one area, certainly not specific to Clarkdale's area. I heard reference to a murder in Oakfield. I know of a suicide over there, and I do know of a shooting. I wasn't aware of a murder over there, but at any rate, it was a tragic event that did happen. But again, that can happen anywhere when you've got a human element involved. Things happen, crimes happen. As far as the traffic's a problem everywhere. You got to have roads. We're going to enforce the traffic laws, but I don't build roads. I enforce the laws on the roads that we have. So I'll sit here and tell you, I think the Sheriff's Department does an excellent job. We've got the lowest crime rate, certainly in this area, and I would challenge you to probably statewide as far as Sheriff's Departments go. So we're up for the challenge, but, wish the challenge wasn't there, obviously. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
So I guess what I'm hearing you say is any growth in Madison County, the law enforcement, or you're up to the challenge as far as keeping the crime as low as possible.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions for the sheriff? Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Sheriff, update as well. The other that I keep hearing is the schools. Does anybody have any info on the schools as far as being overcrowded? Are there any info at all? Because I haven't seen anything on schools. From the school, I'm talking about from the school board now, or from the school superintendent, or.
There's a letter in the records.
The letter in the records.
I did not have it. I did not have a record. That's the reason I'm asking.
Yeah, it looks like this.
What does it say?
It says that the school.
I tell you, Greg, just come up and read it.
Oh, boy, all right. Morning.
Now, is this from the school itself?
This is on Madison County Schools letterhead signed by Ted Poor, Superintendent.
Okay, well, that's.
And it is dated August 5th of 2024. To whom it concerns, Madison County School District employees, it says employees, I'm assuming Madison County School District employs a demographer to help the district for future growth trends and needs. The district uses the data provided to plan for upcoming needs within the district and different zones within the district. The district is aware of the future growth around the Yandell Road and Clarkdale Road areas in the Gluckstadt zone. The demographer has and will continue to add the new developments within our planning for the district's future trends and needs. Madison County Schools has a capital project program that is ongoing to maintain the buildings across our district and to add additional capacity as needed. We are committed to providing a great learning experience and environment to all students. Thanks, Ted Poore.
Okay. I haven't seen that letter, and is that in the minutes?
Get that to running.
Have we put that?
It should be in your file there somewhere.
Yeah, I hadn't seen it.
Okay.
Motion to make sure they go in the minutes.
And the, okay, I got a motion Supervisor Griffin, second Supervisor Banks for it to go into the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. Man, we're not taking any more statements at this point.
I was going to answer your question about the schools.
Yeah, and that's fine, and you'll probably get the opportunity here in a second, please. The other is the, of course, the infrastructure.
Traffic.
And I know that we have things going on infrastructure, and Tim, Tim Bryant is our county engineer, and he is overseeing these projects, so.
Is there anything specific you want?
Well, basically Yandell, Clarkdale, and Green
Okay,
Oak.
well, all right, how about we start with Green Oak? I talked to the contractor this morning. The intersection of Green Oak and Highway 51 should be complete in the next 3 weeks.
That's where the signal light
That's the signal light and the new interchange, or the new intersection.
All right, and the signal light's gonna be working from what
Signal
I was
light
told?
should be in flash in 3 weeks. They'll flash it for a week, and then it'll be fully operational after that.
Okay, and I guess, and I've seen a plat on this as far as, well, in fact, I think I saw it before the meeting, actually.
There's a schematic of it sitting right over here that everybody can look at if they'd like.
So on Green Oak, there'll be a turn lane?
There'll be a turn lane, yes.
North, south, both?
All 4 directions.
Okay, and then,
4 directions when Reunion 2 is opened.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
three directions right now, and around Christmas, when Reunion 2, which is the road from Highway 51 over to Parkway East, is opened, then it'll be a 4-way intersection.
so it'll be open this year, around December, from
Around
Highway
December.
51 to Green Oak to Parkway East.
To Parkway East.
Okay,
That's the anticipated opening date for that section of road.
okay.
Yandell Road, the 3-laning section of that road, which will take the 3-lane section of Yandell, which is currently 3-lane to about Westfallen. It will take it from Westfallen back to the school and 3-lane it, which will be 2 lanes westbound, 1 lane eastbound. It will be approximately 2 years before that is complete. That will include a signal and upgraded interchange at Clarkdale Extension. There's also a schematic of that intersection here as well. So that will be approximately 2 years before the 3-laning section will be done.
All right, and the 3-lane again is from where? From the school?
From Madison Crossing back to the west to Highway 51.
Okay, and that is the extra lane that is being worked on now?
Well, yes, the project is being worked on now.
Okay, and when will it go in construction?
In approximately a year from now.
Okay, and it'll be finished in, is it 2 years?
Approximately 2 years.
With
Right.
the signal light at Clarkdale?
Yes, that will include the signal light at Clarkdale
Okay.
in the current schematic that's here.
That would include, turning lane at Clarkdale and Yandell?
Yes.
Right
Yeah,
in there.
a westbound left turn lane southbound, and then a northbound left turn for westbound. And as we get into a 5-lane, the recommendation that Jonathan Kaiser did showed a dual left. And as we do the 5-laning section at a later project, we can include that dual left in the 5-laning section that is our second project in that. But that was not included in the initial phase of the signal.
And that is with Wagner Engineering has
That's with
that
Wagner's project, correct.
And that's where it'll be 5-lane.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Also, and I mentioned this, Highway 51. Of course, it was mentioned to Commissioner Simmons as well. We bring them to Highway 51, and that's even with the current traffic, regardless whether there's any more buildings, home buildings. Then we bring them to Highway 51, and then right across Highway 51 is Weisenberger.
Right. And we're going to widen Weisenberger. When you get to Highway 51, you've got one lane each direction. So as we've talked about in the past, you get to Highway 51, you can't go anywhere but one lane. We're going to widen Weisenberger so that you have 2 lanes across Weisenberger so that you can get to the interstate with a 4-lane section. You can get to Parkway East. You get to Parkway East, you can go north at Parkway East. You can get to Gluckstadt, you can get to the interstate that way. You can go south, you can get to Green Oak, or you can get to Parkway East and you get to Reunion. You can get on the interstate there. You can go south on Parkway East. You can get to Madison. You can also, if you're on Clarkdale, you can go north. You can go to Yandell. You can go south. You can go to Green Oak. You have 2 opportunities to get to 51 in those 2 directions, both of which have signals. So there is more than one means of access for traffic that you don't currently have that we will have in the foreseeable future.
Right. And the cost on Weisenberger, I know Neil Schaefer is doing that for us, as far as engineering.
That is around a $15 to $16 million project.
Okay, and the cost for Yandell Road is?
That from 51 to 43 is close to 100 million.
Okay, but if you divide it up from 51 to Deerfield to
that's
North
around,
Occan.
That's around 40 to 45.
Okay.
Tim.
And a time limit from the school, which will include the signal light there at Clarkdale, coming back to Highway 51, where the project is currently going on now, or will be going on within a year, as far as adding the extra lane. What kind of time would we be looking at, or have you had time to study with Wagner Engineering to be able to?
We expect that as soon as the 3-laning is finished, that we will come back and add an additional 2 lanes to that. So that as soon as the 3-laning is done, we expect to add an additional 2 lanes on the outside of that so that we'll have a 5-lane section in that, probably beginning at the end of 2 years is when that'll start.
Okay, in approximately 2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years, that one will start.
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible, right.
Tim, do we have a traffic count on Clarkdale Road in this area?
I believe it is in Jonathan's study. I don't have it right here in front of me, but.
Jonathan, do
Will
you have
come
that?
up?
I've got the hourly volumes there, and I don't have the 12-hour count with me, but I've got the hourly volumes.
During peak time?
Yes, sir.
I was looking really by the day, and
24-hour count?
Give us your numbers, what you got there.
Let's see, Clarkdale Extension at Yandell Road northbound was 241 vehicles in the AM peak hour, 110 in the PM peak hour. Southbound was 56 vehicles per hour in the AM peak and 215 in the PM peak hour.
How do you measure capacity on a 2-lane road? By the hour, by the 8 hour? What?
Typically, what we're looking at is hourly traffic volumes at intersections. Florida has some hourly directional volumes where they do level of service. by peak hour volume, and I've discussed that with the board before, that they are in the 860 to 890 vehicles per hour in one direction as a capacity of a 2-lane road in one direction.
Okay, is Clarkdale in that area over capacity currently?
No.
How much capacity is left?
It's, as I said, the northbound in the AM peak hour was 241 vehicles per hour, so that would be at about 25% of the capacity of the road northbound.
Okay, did you do any capacity studies on the surrounding roads?
I'm sorry.
Did you do any capacity studies on the surrounding roads? Any?
I looked at the Yandell intersection, and I also looked at the Green Oak and Clarkdale intersection, and looked at those hourly traffic volumes, and then also used the trip generation manual looking at traffic volume forecast for the number of houses that they're planning to develop, and based on studies of similar land uses, use those volumes to evaluate the peak hours, and showed that they would get acceptable levels of service at Green Oak to the south, to the north with the installation of a traffic signal and dual northbound left turn lanes. That was showing acceptable levels of service, better than level of service D.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to hear again on Clarkdale Road. Is it overcrowded at this point with traffic?
The traffic volumes are not overcrowded. They're not over capacity on Clarkdale Road.
And you say it's 241, 44?
Yes, sir.
What should that road hold then?
Again, it would be a 2-lane road in one direction could accommodate 860 vehicles per hour in that neighborhood. That is what.
All right, that's guys, that's enough. That's enough.
That's what FDOT uses for a roadway, 2-lane roadway in one direction. Those are the numbers that we were seeing on Yandell Road. We were seeing in excess of that at Highway 51, and that was part of the reasoning for some of the widening and improvements on Yandell Road.
And you said MDOT uses this?
MDOT does not use that. They use highway capacity analysis software to evaluate intersection volumes. They don't evaluate level of service by peak hour on roadways.
All right, and with the signal lights that is being proposed and put in.
And the recommended improvements, yes, sir, with the dual northbound left turn lanes on Clarkdale Road, with this additional development, it would operate at acceptable levels, yes, sir.
Level service A, wasn't it? Is that what you said? This is A.
I don't remember the level of service off the top of my head, but I do have the intersection. It was showing level of service A at Clarkdale Extension and Yandell Road.
All right, and explain that to us a little bit.
It was averaging 8.1 seconds of delay per vehicle in the AM peak hour and 5.9 seconds of delay per vehicle in the PM peak hour is the forecasted delays at the intersection.
All right, but once the extra lane is installed, not the 5-lane, but the extra lane that's installed, which will be installed, from what I understand, in 2 years approximately.
I don't think we've run that.
How would that fit with the traffic? I mean, how would that help relieve the traffic from?
I would, the graphic that you've got there shows a single northbound lane. In the recommended improvements, we were showing dual northbound left turn lanes. And with you having 2 receiving lanes, 2 westbound lanes, you could, in this first phase, accommodate dual northbound left turn lanes at Clarkdale Extension.
Your analysis included all of the development from this development.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
In the next 2 years, you don't have all of this development in there yet. So I would imagine you're going to be roughly of level service B, which won't be much different than
level B.
I would say somewhere in that range.
Yeah, okay.
A whole lot better than what you got now.
And how will the traffic light at Green Oak impact the current traffic, regardless whether there's anything else built as far as time, as far as people coming off of North Ocanton or Green Oak or Yandell coming to the signal light? How would that help?
Oh,
get on 51.
As we all know, you're taking your life in your own hands trying to get out on 51 right now with that signal. You know, everybody's going to stop. You're going to have a free movement coming out onto 51. You're going to have 30 to 40 seconds to get out. Everybody's going to have their own time to get out, and it's going to be a much safer intersection. So it's going to be nothing but a positive there.
Okay. Are there other questions from the board?
Jonathan, go back to the, I guess it's equations you're using from Florida. Why are you using Florida equations? Does MDOT not have their own?
It's a easier analysis when you're looking at directional volumes on a roadway as opposed to having intersection delays and traffic control that adds delay to an intersection. So MDOT doesn't particularly deal with that level of degree of analysis. They're usually looking at intersections. And so that's just something that I've come across in my experience of another agency that has a very useful analysis tool. And I use that sometimes just to quantify things. So it's a little easier to understand the vehicle per hour, and it's a more accurate analysis than a vehicle per day analysis.
Are there other questions for Jonathan at this point?
How does the condition of the road factor into that? You know, driving on a 2-lane road that's flat and straight with shoulders and adequate space to for ingress egress off of to the road. You know, coming around a corner and finding a car stopped, waiting to turn left or right into an area. I've had the pleasure of driving down Clarkdale Road here recently, and it was an unpleasant experience, to say the least. I drive on 2-lane roads all the time, and it was not the same. 2 lanes is not 2 lanes. So how do you factor in winding, undulating versus straight and flat?
And that's a great question. And Clarkdale Extension at the north end is where the traffic signal is. Yes.
Speaking to Mike.
I'm not talking about the north end. I'm talking about
okay. I understand, and that's
miles
why
of the road before you get to a place where you have to stop and turn.
And I understand that. I'm just saying that the capacity analysis scenario that I was discussing earlier was at the north end at Clarkdale Extension at the signalized intersection that we were discussing. Obviously, Clarkdale Road to the south of the all-way stop, is a more narrow road. It has narrower lanes. It doesn't have very good shoulders. It has open ditches. There's no pedestrian accommodations, and that's something that Tim and I have discussed about some of the other projects, about opportunities to include pedestrian infrastructure in some of these roadway projects.
800 cars an hour number that you threw out that is a pipe dream. It is not feasible in reality.
I would say that you would reduce that volume some based on lane width and based on shoulders. I would not say that it's a pipe dream in that perspective, in that I was discussing the intersection of Clarkdale Extension at Yandale Road and what the volumes were at that intersection. It would be a lesser capacity in narrower lanes and with different shoulders. I wouldn't expect it to be 50% less, but I would expect it to be less.
Okay. Now, and this may be a question for the developer. Is there any construction entrance access? I've seen lots of neighborhoods with construction entrances that are not for use by public, and they tend to be in a more off-beaten path. Because right now you've got 800 plus houses. Say it takes them 2 years to get started. That's 80 houses a year they're going to be building if they build out. That's 80 houses worth of construction crews and dump trucks and roofing trucks and 18-wheelers and yardscape people coming in and out of that neighborhood. That's more than one house a week. Is there any consideration for the traffic on that road for possibility of moving that construction traffic off of Yandell or even North Old Canton or Green Oak? I don't know what kind of access they have.
I'm reasonably sure there's a no truck sign on the south end for
Okay, so
northbound
there's
traffic.
no trucks in there, so how are they going to build houses?
North Oak Canton.
I believe that there could be access through 12 Oaks to the east, but I don't know the answer to that.
12 Oaks, is that a subdivision or?
That's what provides access to the natural, to the
I
plant. to
don't,
the-
Jonathan, I don't think you're probably the correct
Yeah,
one to
that's
answer
what I'm saying,
that.
the developers probably.
And I don't know whether we've actually gotten to that point, because I ain't even, we're in the zoning at this point. The site plan would come next, which that is part of the site plan. Great questions, but that's part of the site plan that this board, if this moves forward, would have to consider later on.
Yes, sir.
Other questions for Jonathan concerning traffic from the board? Okay. Thank you. Tim, any other update in that area that you need to give us?
I think that's got us, unless y'all have any questions for me.
Yeah, if you will, Tim, kind of lay it out, the whole Yandell Road fixing on different sections, start from 43 and come all the way down to 51.
Okay. Starting at 43, we've got, I guess, 5, 6, if you count Weisenberger, sections of Yandell Road that we're going to be widening. So we got from Highway 43 to Bainbridge, we're going to either 5-lane or 4-lane, depending on what the scenario needs to be. We've got Bainbridge to North Old Canton. We've got a project where we're going to do intersection improvements at North Old Canton and Yandell. Then we've got a project from...
Go put a light there.
We're going to put intersection improvements and a traffic signal. You're correct. Then we've got a project from North Old Canton to Smith Car Road, where we're going to widen to 5 lanes. We've got a project from Smith Car to Highway 51. And then we've got Weisenberger Road from Highway 51 to Parkway East. So that whole corridor is going to be widened to accommodate.
Yeah, and just to say, some of them got up and they were concerned that this board wasn't gonna move forward on widening and upgrading roads. If you listened or read the paper, month ago, 2 months ago, or less than that, this board voted to spend $250 million in bond money on roads all over the county. And all those sections of roads that on Yandell, what Tim just named, is in that vote. We got engineers already ready to go out there and do that work. And we are pushing it aggressively, fast as possible, bring that work back. Because we know developments are coming in that area. And we got to be able to move traffic for the people that's already there and the people that is coming. Just looking at it, the schools, they got to educate those kids, and they go educate them. You might even end up with a school somewhere on Yandell Road, because for years we looked at, I did, my colleagues deal with issues on the west side of the track, trying to move traffic and get road problems solved. And I kind of sat back and watched them struggle and work through it. And here it is, fast forward, it then jumped over to the east side into my district that I inherited from Casey, I think.
I had nothing to do with that. I really lines like that. You wanted it.
But anyway, we are in the area that where people want to move. That's on Yandell Road, because not because of the great job that we as the Board of Supervisors do, but we are in Madison County School District over there. And that is room for new houses. So that's why developments are looking in that area, because there's land over there that's open and in that school district. And saying all that to say, we working on your traffic problem just as fast as we can work on it. We pushing our engineers every week to keep move. Even if it's raining, we want you out there working.
Okay. Anything else for Tim on infrastructure?
I have a question. Am I mistaken? So when I-55 is widened and we get ramps to the interstate, where will that come out? So if you get off that exit, you'll be able to go east or west, and that will be on a Reunion Parkway.
Correct.
Right. So right now, if you were northbound on I-55 and you get off at these ramps that are going to be included with the widening of I-55, to go west, to go home, if you live in this part of the area, you would get off and go down, and it would hit 51, and then you would go through that intersection, and that would be Green Oak.
Well, if you're going west, you would go to both.
You're going east.
Okay, if you're going east,
Towards this development.
if you're going east, you're gonna wind up right by,
It's going to come out on Green Oak.
yeah, you'll wind up on
So-
51 at Green Oak.
When I-55 is developed and the ramps are put in, the most direct route from this part of the county is going to be Green Oak and North Old Canton, correct? Because Yandell Road is we're building it to accommodate the people that live there now, not people that are coming. So right now, we're going to be dumping off of the interstate. We're going to be putting them onto, what is that, Phase 2?
Phase 2 Reunion.
And that's going to be 4 lanes. And then
Phase 2 is 2 lanes.
So that's going to be 2 lanes.
Good.
And they're going to be coming off on 2 lanes, crossing 51, coming up 2 lanes, and then turning into a even narrower 2 lane. That's where I envision most of this traffic going. And it's all 2 lane, because that's going to be the most direct route to the interstate for anybody who wants to go to the interstate. Going
Could be.
north and then taking a left onto Yandell and weaving back and forth, even if it is 5 lanes or 10 lanes, is going to be a hassle. I would imagine that if you live there, you're going to be on 2 lanes no matter what Yandell looks like, because we don't have a plan for widening that. We're building a new road that's 2 lanes, and we're wanting to dump all these extra cars on there, and I just don't feel like it's I just don't feel like we as a board considered that when we made these plans. And it may be something we want to consider when some of these other things are done. I just don't think that we need to bank on widening of Yandell solving all the problems. Widening Yandell is going to solve the problems for the people who live off Yandell. It's not going to solve the problems for the people that live on Clarkdale.
You know, one thing that I want to clear what Supervisor Brandon said, we are widening Yandell 5 lanes for current and future growth. It's just not current growth.
You're correct.
And yeah, the cars that will be coming off the interstate going towards Highway 51, it is a 2-lane, but those cars will be actually coming off of another road now and using the new road.
Correct.
That's taken in consideration as
Right.
well. So, yes, we have taken in consideration much of this traffic. Will widening of Yandell take care of all of the issues? No, it will not. I'll agree with you on that. That's where we need to come back in a couple of years and put another $150 million road plan together. And it could include Clarkdale and some other roads that are similar to that to bring it up to par to move traffic as well. You know, so, but yes, Supervisor Brandon, there was a lot of planning going into place with this. And we're putting this in action now. And again, it's not cure all.
No, it's not.
Come back and redo some other roads.
It's a step.
And it will be constantly every year
Yeah.
with our growth. It won't be a one-time deal.
Well, why don't we table this until some of these roads are made and we can run traffic studies to see. In fact, I'm making a motion right now that we table this until Clarkdale Road has been not Clarkdale Road, Yandell Road has been significantly improved, and we can run traffic studies and to see if it can, Clarkdale Road and the area can handle this extra traffic. I mean, right now, what they want to build is a 460% increase over what they could build there at its current zoning. 460% increase.
And your motion is?
That we table this until Yandell Road has been significantly improved in the area to run another traffic study to see if what we did actually would alleviate the congestion enough to add 800 houses.
Okay. We've got a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a second. Other discussion. Just kind of answering some questions. Jonathan, if you would come back up, because we're on the infrastructure, still there. And you heard Supervisor Brandon's motion and discussion. And I'm trying to follow him as well. And I think the last thing he said, wait until we figure out whether the 3-lane or 5-lane is going to help with traffic, or whether the signal light at Green Oak is going to help with traffic off of Yandell. The things that we're actually doing, how would that help move traffic? I know we just went over it, but I would like for you to go over it again, I suppose.
The interchange is with I-55, with the Reunion Parkway extension, when it connects to the interstate, will divert some traffic off of Yandell Road. At the same time, that's going to be traffic that's commuting to and from the south. You know, you do have a new mega site with a lot of jobs coming in off of Highway 22, and I expect there to be more people wanting to commute, short commutes to Nissan or to that mega site to live in an area like this. So I don't know that 100% of the traffic is going to be commuting to and from the south. I think you will have more growth and more jobs coming in the Canton area, that this would be a very attractive location for residents that are going to be working.
But let's narrow it down to Yandell Road. Let's just narrow it down to Yandell Road. The plans that we currently have in place.
Yes, sir.
Once they're implemented.
Yes, sir.
How would that handle the traffic? That's really, I think, what Supervisor.
Okay, it's in the volume forecast that you have and on the traffic studies for the development in the area, it's showing that it's going to significantly improve the intersections and reduce the delay. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but they're better than level of service D at the intersection with 51 and Parkway East.
Yeah.
Whereas currently you're at F at those at least Highway 51 and Yandell Road intersection, which are over capacity.
You're saying it would be a D?
I would say it would be better than level of service D. I don't remember what those levels of service are off the top of my head.
based on going from an F to a D?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's not a failing level of service. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I know that they're not E or F. So I just don't have those numbers in front of me to
Right.
be able to tell you what that is. I was not expecting that
Like I said,
question.
I think we need to have Yandell finished. I think we need to have ramps to the interstate finished, do an actual traffic study, and then decide if we can handle 800 plus homes that are going to be using mostly 2-lane roads.
Okay.
Got to sound like cases to me is you trying to push development somewhere else in another county because developers not gonna wait till we build roads. Yandell Road is what, 2 years, 3 years down the road before they even get the 3-lane get complete.
3-laning is probably two years so finished.
The 3-lane.
3-laning.
5-lane could be 4 or 5.
Right.
And they're not gonna wait on 4 or 5
Build
years.
180 homes tomorrow. Without the developer, they could build 180 homes right there tomorrow.
Well, you know, what's very interesting in this discussion that this happened is this board approved 51 lots at the last board meeting on Yandell Road. There wasn't one discussion from
Nobody.
a supervisor saying that, hey, this is gonna be more traffic on Yandell Road. Not one
I understand.
supervisor.
I understand.
5-0 vote.
We had just, in the 2 weeks before that, we
And-
improved 67 houses
And so-
on Yandell Road. They're on Yandell Road. They will be turning onto Yandell Road.
So what I'm saying is, instead of holding your finger up in the air and say which way the wind blows, make a good, solid decision for the county. Not because
So how
we
many
have.
houses was it?
Hold on.
50?
Not,
So
hold
10%
on.
of the houses?
I don't interrupt you. I don't interrupt you. So instead of holding your finger up in the air and see which way the wind blows, and try to make decisions when people are in front of us, make decisions that's all time that's good for the county. Not just when we have the a good number of people come out and oppose something. Do it the whole time, because this discussion should have happened at the last board meeting as well, with 51 lots. It should have happened, but it didn't.
It's
Wasn't
less than
never-
10%.
Wasn't never brought up.
It's less
So-
than 10%.
All right, anything,
10% houses, 10 cars for every 100 cars turning left or right onto Yandell Road is not the same discussion.
All right.
And not even remotely, Gerald. And you
any,
can make comparisons of what I did or didn't do.
I'm
In
just saying.
50 houses, 800 houses is a significant difference than 50
Well, you
or
just-
60 or 100.
any other questions for Jonathan? All right. One other thing too that, and I want to get to the young lady there that talking about the school. She had the answer for the schools. If you would, just hadn't forgotten about you. Just hadn't made it there yet.
My name is Katie McCluskey. I live at 112 Cherry Rose Trail. I just wanted to answer your question. You asked if anyone reached out to the schools.
Yes, ma'am.
I reached out to Deborah Houghton, who's the principal at Madison Crossing Elementary. Both of my children attend public schools or attended public schools, and went to both Madison Crossing and Germantown Middle and High School. Dr. Houghton reached back out and said that Madison County School Board requires that they do not weigh in on these matters. So we are requesting some information. We haven't gotten that yet, but I can speak as a parent to say that, yes, we are experiencing overcrowding in our schools. I sit in carpool for an hour and a half every day, and we're definitely experiencing overcrowding now.
Okay, thank you for that update. I did not realize or did not know we had the letter from the superintendent of education.
Yes, sir.
Until today. The other thing that I didn't hear is fire And attorneys, we're gonna get to y'all just in a second, okay? But the fire, anyone here speak on the fire district? Okay. If it's not, then we're gonna get back to the attorneys at this point. And, Mr. Neil Bryant, if you would come up and maybe 7 to 10 minutes.
I don't think I'll necessarily need that long. I would just like to, again, Neil Bryant for the applicants. We've, it's kind of like been a buffet today. There's been something for everybody. But, and I think we've kind of.
I'm sorry. One thing, we have a motion on the tape, on the floor.
I was wondering about that, but I
Yeah,
didn't
we
know if
have a
I'd missed
motion,
the
and
vote.
I don't want to go any further without that motion.
Go ahead.
Because it may not need to talk.
I thought
any
y'all
longer.
may have voted on it when I wasn't listening,
Yeah,
or couldn't
okay.
hear. so
We have
go
a
ahead.
motion on the floor to table this. Is that your motion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
No.
Okay. Keep going.
Okay. The issue here is rezoning. We have plenty of time to get to and answer questions and resolve issues with respect to construction access and, you know, the site plan and all of that. All that is future and down the road. Right now, what we have is a situation where the future, and remember, in the minutes, when the plan was passed, it said that CMPDD and the county had worked on this for 2 years when they put this together, and they considered traffic patterns, traffic growth, and current existing land use and future land use when they made their land use plan. That land use plan, as you can see, land use plan, as you can see, yellow, medium density. That is not what the zoning map says, because the zoning map was amended for a completely different reason. The county was trying to do two things at once, admirably, and I appreciate them doing that. They were trying to, on the one hand, update and approve a new comprehensive plan, and on the other hand, deal with, through the zoning map, with some recent legislation that had passed. And so in the growth pattern areas that were zoned agricultural, but where subdivisions were springing up around them, that's indicative that that land use is going to be, in the future, subdivision. And so you don't want, I used to raise pigs and goats and chickens and all that. I can assure you, you don't want them next to your subdivision. And so in order to allow landowners who had agriculturally zoned land, the county, when they adopted the zoning map, in conjunction, working in conjunction with CMPDD, pulled out the agricultural, the A1 properties that were in the growth pattern adjacent to other subdivisions and, you know, collector roads, arterial roads, things like that, put them into R1 to allow the property owners to continue to use their property in an agricultural way, and yet the county got to keep a hand, it says it, that we get to, it doesn't say keep a hand on the wheel, but the county retains some control over the way that property is used. That's why it was put into R1. It was the least restrictive zoning classification for residential. And as I said in the minutes, 9 months after that was adopted, Mr. Weeks, so weird to call him that, but Mr. Weeks said in the minutes that we did this for this purpose, and then the landowner can apply for a different classification in the future if they so desire. And so all I'm saying is, when my colleague says, I'll say colleague opposite says that zoning maps are presumed to be permanent, in this case, you know, the Supreme Court has also said that zoning is a legislative function of a Board of Supervisors. And so looking at the legislative history of the comprehensive land use plan and the zoning map is very instructive. I think you almost have to do it, and that will tell you, it will show you that it was not rezoned to R1 because the county intended it to be permanent, quite the opposite. It says the opposite in the minutes. It was done as a placeholder for the future growth that would come, while allowing the landowners to continue to enjoy and use their property as they had been doing so. So with that, I would ask that you vote yes, rezone the property consistent with the future land use plan, map and the comprehensive plan. And as moving forward, we, the owners and developers, have every ounce of faith that we can in the county that you're going to move forward. We've seen you prove that with the transportation issues. We want to work alongside you to get this off the ground and moving. Trust me, we don't want to put hundreds of houses on the market if the roads aren't ready. We believe the county's going to move forward, and we want to start getting ready so that we can be ready when that time comes. So with that, I ask you to vote for yes. Thank you.
Brian, where is that in the minutes that you just named off? It's 2019, I guess?
Which one? The adoption?
Yes, where you said that, I guess there was a mistake.
No, they never said there were, well, they never said there was a mistake. I'm saying that there was a mistake. At the time, it was a well-intentioned mistake because the statute says that land cannot be rezoned except in compliance with a comprehensive plan.
Where's that in our minutes?
That
you named off earlier.
I was referencing the minutes from October I believe it was the 18th of when P&Z, November the 18th, 2019 is just a board vote to approve it. The quote from CMPDD came from the October 24th, 2019 Planning and Zoning Commission minutes. Right, and then 9 months later from the Board of Supervisors approval on August the 17th of 2020 of Rands LLC. That was Scott Shoemaker from R1 to R2, and that's the quote from Mr. Weeks with respect to why they made the change to agricultural at the time.
Good deal.
So with that, if there's no further issues, I ask you to vote yes for rezoning.
Right. Thank you. And Mr. Martin?
Sam Martin again for the record. Thanks for the opportunity to close up. We've heard a lot of testimony today, a lot of different interests, a lot of different points. But one thing that stuck with me is, we all have jobs. I'm here because it's my job. The developers are here because it's their project and their job. The realtors, I assume they would like to sell this property, it's their job. Engineers obviously are needed to draw these plans up. But one thing that sticks out about me is all the concerned citizens here that took off from their jobs to be here because this affects their life. This affects their daily life. It affects their property values. The traffic affects their drives to school, their drives to work, and they've testified about that. With all due respect to Rankin County, this is not Rankin County, and it's your job. You all hold the keys to this county. You all decide what gets to go in this county. And at some point, this board decided that this area was residential estate. That is a fact. And I do appreciate legislative history. As a former legislative attorney, I certainly appreciate that. However, the fact remains that this property was zoned as residential estate. And when it was done so, these people, as they have testified, relied on that representation from the county. And they bought and built upon their parcels in reliance of that. And, we've heard a lot of testimony today from really countless amounts of people, but I would remind you all about that petition that was signed from all the people who, assuming, could not take off from their job to be here. 433 people. Now, I'm a big believer that there is no such thing as a coincidence in life. And as I was sitting in that chair right over there just a few minutes ago, I got a WLBT3 note on my phone, which is a little ironic that they're here today. And it says, a pipeline has exploded and is on fire in a Houston suburb, forcing evacuations. That was published September 16th, 2024 at 11:21 a.m., roughly an hour ago. I don't believe that's a coincidence. And here today, we've heard a lot of dates of when these roads may be developed. And I appreciate each of you for ensuring that at some point these roads will be developed and they will help our citizens. But at the point right now, the simple fact is they're not here. They're not satisfying this need. And so just like this news here today that a pipeline has exploded in Texas, consider the fact that we don't have an emergency exit plan yet from this proposed development. And if an event were to occur, 833 lots, assuming again, times 2, 1,500 to 1,600 people are trying to get out of that neighborhood onto Clarkdale Road. And then at some point are trying to get onto Yandell Road. Assuming an event like this, a pipeline explodes, I would assume, I know myself, if I was stuck in traffic, I'd leave the car and run if it's that serious. And that may be what you have here today. I know that sounds like we're exaggerating, but what are the chances that that news alert comes off this morning, the same time that we're addressing an issue? And again, I know you all hear these, and you approved a parcel, just recently off Yandell Road. And you hear these issues about traffic, about schools, about safety concerns. But this is a unique situation, and a unique situation requires unique consideration. And that's all we're asking here today. Deny the petition or table it until we get more information. Thank you.
I think at this point, we're still in the public hearing, so I would ask the board to have a motion to close the public hearing. Motion. Got a motion, Supervisor Baxter. Do I have a second? Second, Supervisor Banks. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed. The public hearing is closed on this matter. So at this point is open discussion for the board at this stage. So this is where we are. So board members.
So the thing that stuck out to me beyond traffic was the fire rating and the having to build another fire station. Specifically, both of those. I mean, both of those would cost the taxpayers a significant amount of money if their fire rating went up or down, I should say. That's going to increase their taxes. It's also going to be, a burden on the county to build a new fire station, to buy a new, I don't know how much fire trucks cost. I'm pretty sure they're at least 6 figures. We're already building one out at the mega site and whatnot. So is there any validity to that? That we need to take into consideration before we approve 800 some odd houses that would have to have, for all intents and purposes, their own fire station?
I think you take all of it in consideration.
Yeah.
I think you do.
And the ability for the new fire truck to get to an 800 home residence with one way in, one way out. I wouldn't want to live in the back. If the fire department had to get to me. Is that something that we want to take into consideration before we vote to approve this? To get some answers on, from the state fire board or whomever the authority would be on if this would in fact raise the taxes of everybody in that fire district?
Other discussion for the board members?
I think one big issue that I kept hearing is traffic. And I think, our job as supervisors is to solve that traffic issue, along with, I hear the fire question, but, we've been working hard to get our fire departments in good shape. And I think the one that this particular development is located in is one of our best in the county, and it's certainly well funded. The traffic thing is where we've got to put our emphasis on in that area. We're trying to do something at Bozeman, Stribling, and on the west side, but Yandell Road area has gone, well, it was kind of sleepy for a long time. All the development was on the west side, and of course, as development came, we tried our best to kind of keep up with it, but we didn't have much funding when development really started. Now, we do have capabilities and are trying to do more with like what we just committed to on Yonder Road, but I agree, Clarkdale Road, you know, instead of Green Oak, Okan Road. We need to look hard and firm at those roads because development on the east side is coming. I mean, it's coming. And, you know, where we've looked on the west side because development came there first. But there's going to be more development on the east side. And as far as the schools are concerned and overcrowding, yeah, they're going to be building some more schools. They're going to have to. They're going to take some of that AWS money and build some more schools too, because that's what's coming here. But I would hope that we improve our schools and improve our roadways with the growth that we've been getting. You know, I remember when most of the roads, or 70% of the roads in Madison County were gravel. So, I mean, we have problems today that when I started 40 years ago, we didn't have. So, but we do have the ability and the financial capacities to solve those problems. All we got to do is work together and do them. Now, everything I heard today was about traffic. You know, they brought up a few other little ancillary things, but the biggest problem that we all face is traffic. And as supervisors, you're gonna always be the road supervisors. Building, you know, something else, that ain't what we do. We build roads. And it's our job to roll up our sleeves, get together, and start improving the infrastructure. I think we made a good start. We've got engineers hired, and we're moving in a good direction. But until people start seeing work, they'll never believe that we're going to finish the job. And that's what we got to do, is finish the job. We don't need to hold people up that's trying to do their business because we hadn't done our business. That's where I am. And I have never tried to stop anybody from helping to develop Madison County because I couldn't do my job of building roads. So I'm all for building roads, and let's get together on that. So with that being said, and I think I've texted a few people that I'm fine with if we can just go ahead and build these roads. I know the fire department's going to do their job, and the school superintendent and board of the school board, they're going to do their job. Let's do our job. Let's build these roads. Let's get these people to and from work safely. Okay.
Other discussions from the board?
Yep, and saying that, I see this board is in better shape on the east side than the west side, because the west side, all the houses were there, and wasn't no infrastructure. Now we trying to build infrastructure, and them built some. Well, on the east side now, we are ahead of these 700 and some houses. We are making plans on roads, and the roads, a lot of them gonna be built by the time the developer saying they gonna build out in the next, 10 years or 12 years. These roads are gonna be built, and we're gonna be working on more roads. What I mean more roads is Clarkdale itself. Do we wanna look at widening it, adding another lane, Old Canton Road? We're gonna have to do something there, all the way up to what the road, Green Oak, where it changed name to Green Oaks. But if we don't start on this group of roads and allow these developers to go and do their job, we dead in the water. By saying all that, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the application.
Second.
All right, we got a motion on the floor to approve, got a second from Mr. Banks. Board discussion. Other discussion from the board? I would like to, say a couple of things. It was very interesting, the last comment from Mr. Martin. Very good information. But one thing I was really expecting to hear from you, especially on closing remarks, was they did not meet the requirements of rezoning. I didn't hear that from you. I heard other good information, but today we're actually here for requirements on rezoning, which is changing the character and a need. I was listening very close to see if you was going to address that, and you didn't. And so I'm taking it as you're not saying that they didn't meet those requirements. And that's what we're here today for. Yeah, we're here also to listen about the infrastructure, fire, schools, and we did get a lot of good information from our sheriff. We got a letter from the superintendent of education saying that they're going to take care of the needs of the schools. That comes from our superintendent of education. If I understood the letter, Greg, is that what you took it? Because this is the first time I heard about the letter, actually.
Yes, sir. My understanding of that letter is it said the school employs somebody who specializes in demographics who will make sure the school can accommodate all of the additional students, was
Okay.
my impression of that letter.
And so that, that letter, helps me with the schools, coming from our superintendent. Those are a couple of things, but there's a couple of other concerns that I have at the very beginning. I think, Mr. Bryant, you mentioned that the size of the lots, the size of the homes, there's some, I guess, a little confusion there, but I guess it's straight at this point. And I'm going to repeat what you said. It was 10,000 square foot to 14,000 square foot lots. Homes, we finally, I think you settled on homes being from 1,900 to 2,800 square feet for track one.
One section.
For track one. Track two from 1,700 to 2,200. I have a concern with those 1,700 to 2,200, track two. That's a concern because I heard very close, and I listened, guys, I listened to y'all very closely when you were talking. And a lot of times, many of you says property values. You want your property values to increase, and we do too. I'm not with the 1,700 square foot homes. I'm just not. Can they sell? Yes, no doubt. But we're looking to increase property values. That's what we're looking to do. And so I would not support a 1,700. Would I support a 1,900 or 2,000 square foot home as the minimum? Yes. I would support that. When the site plan comes, I would support that. So that's a concern. And again, the build out is 8 to 12 years, or 10 to 12 years. That's the build out. And so the infrastructure, you're exactly right, Mr. Banks and Mr. Brandon both. It's left up to us to make sure our plans move forward in a very timely manner. I like the idea of waiting 2 to 3 years. I'd say 2.5 years before there's any permits given to build a house. I think that's very reasonable. By that time, our infrastructure you should see a huge difference in traffic at that point. But there's no doubt, I am for growth. I am for good growth. And I think the quality of homes that both of these developers build, I'm familiar with both of them, very, very much so. the homes that they build are going to be excellent homes that any of us would want to live in. And from my understanding, and it didn't come from these two developers, but I did ask a couple of three other developers that build in Madison County. And I asked them, what does it cost to build a home now, square foot? Guys, it blew me away. You know, one of them said $200 to $230 a square foot. I didn't realize it was that much. Another one said $210 to $240 a square foot. And the third developer mentioned anywhere between $200 to $250 a square foot. Guys, either way, you're looking at a minimum of $450,000, $500,000 home at the minimum. And these homes can easily go to $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 home. I mean, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of home. So, to me, that's what I would look at. I would support this today because I think you've proven your point. I think y'all have proven your point. There's a change in the character and a need. And that's the only reason I support it today. But there'll come a time for a site plan. And this person here won't vote for a site plan under 1,900, 2,000 square foot homes. And that's not only with y'all, but this is with any other development that's coming up on that side as well. And that will increase property values as we go along the way. So, open it up for discussion for the board one more time before we vote.
Is that 1,900 heated and cooled?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Gerald, I don't know how to say this without being rude, but I don't know if we were sitting in the same meeting, because every person I heard speak spoke to the nature of the area.
They did.
All live on 2+ acres, every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So every single person that spoke, and I think that kind of builds a foundation of the character of the area. And a 1/4 acre lot is not the same as a 2-acre lot. I know that most people, beyond the people in this room, I don't know, I don't live on a 2-acre lot. I don't want that much grass to cut. But if I had the opportunity to live on a 2-acre lot, I would be all over it. Unfortunately, it's outside of my district, so I couldn't buy a 2-acre lot in this development. But I don't agree with you that nobody said that. Everybody said that it doesn't match the character. Every single person that got up and spoke said it does not match the character.
Yes, sir. I was just talking about Mr. Martin only, not the individuals. I was referring to Mr. Martin as the as the closing attorney. I wasn't referring to anyone that got up and spoke, because I would agree with you on that part.
And we've got a signed petition with 430 some odd people who agree that it doesn't match. So maybe, I'm not gonna say that the lawyer should or shouldn't have said, hey, it doesn't match, but we've got enough people to fill this room 10 times over that say it does not match the character. And therefore, we cannot support a rezoning just because we want to rezone it. We have to make decisions based on the character that's there, and I do not believe that this rezoning matches the character of the people who live there.
Okay, and that was very well said. Thank you. And I appreciate Mr. Eves giving us the list of 10 things as well. So, all right, if there's no more discussion, we've got a vote on the table. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay. Just remember, it passes 3-2.
It was 4-1.
4-1?
That was a no.
Yeah.
He said no, I heard.
Okay, 3-2. And when the site plan comes,
Already wrote it down.
those things have to be in place, because we want to increase the property values. Okay. Thank y'all. All right, guys, we have let's go on down on the list.
Y'all going down.
Okay, we're gonna move on down the list to,
Is the yeah.
You were the only one there that said my family's been here since 1870.
That's right, I know.
And I know you've been here a long time too, so I appreciate it.
Not quite since
And I'd like to
1870.
tell you gentlemen,
And you a good person.
and let me tell you, my parents never told me the size of a house.
Makes on the person. That's right.
I agree with you.
You're right.
I agree. Okay,
Yeah. That's
all right, we're gonna move on to Nassan, or Greg.
Nothing
Greg.
for me.
Nassan.
Lord, no.
Yo, Greg, you don't have nothing?
No, sir, I got one very quick item for executive session.
Oh, okay then.
Mike's gonna keep in executive session for like 4 hours. This one.
All right, Nassan.
All right.
Let's do it.
Number 33 is the approval of the budget amendments and the interfund cash transfers.
I'll make a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Supervisor Banks, discussion. All in favor, say aye. 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 All opposed. Item
33 and 34 is the general claims docket and one payroll docket.
Move.
Got a motion, Supervisor Banks, to have a second. I'll second it. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Number 36 is approval of the P&Z per diem.
I'll make a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
You second, or did you aye?
I just eyed it.
Okay.
He's just voting for it.
Supervisor Banks, second it then, and all in favor, say aye.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Banks, you take item 30.
Yeah. Okay. This item 37, approval of Fleet Corps.
Yes, sir.
Y'all ready?
Yes.
Second.
Second. I made a motion. He seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Better join it.
No, we're not going to join. We got some other stuff to do.
Okay, let's move on. Sheriff? Oh.
Boy, that was a long
Good morning. Wanted to bring the board up to speed a little bit. We've got some movement in the fraud case. I really want to go into detail right now, but hope to provide you guys with an update at the next board meeting. Got a couple of meetings we got to attend over the next week's time frame to verify a few facts and numbers and stuff, but we'll provide that to you at the next scheduled board meeting.
We look forward to hearing it because we know it's going to be good news. We're hoping that it's going to be great news.
Thank you.
Look forward to it. Old business? New business?
Oh, boy.
All right, we have executive session. Do I have a motion going to executive,
Like to
closed
make a
termination?
motion
Got a
that we
motion,
go into
Supervisor
closed
Banks.
termination.
Second, Supervisor Griffin. And this is about
Litigation.
litigation. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Termination, was this motion?
Closed termination.
Yes, sir.
Now we need a motion for executive.
All right,
Yeah, we need a motion. To go into executive session.
Mr. Lott,
Litigation.
Mr. Lott. Do I have a motion go into executive session? Got a motion, Mr. Griffin?
Yeah,
Second,
second.
Mr. Banks.
Yeah.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Sir.
Look.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Yeah,
We're
9
back.
o'clock.
Mr. Lott, you're up.
The Madison County Board of Supervisors took 3 actions during executive session. The first action was to retain Attorney Robin Dambrino to continue his representation of Madison County in the Bozeman litigation matter as well as the appeal of the Bozeman Family Trust matter. The second action was to retrain Victoria Bradshaw to continue her representation of Trey Baxter and Sheila Jones in the Bozeman litigation matter and the appeal of the Bozeman Family Trust matter. The third matter was to authorize the county administrator to complete an application for seized property. That's all the actions taken in executive session.
Thank you, Mr. Lott.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to adjourn to September the 30th at 9 a.m.?
Second.
Supervisor Baxter, second. Supervisor Banks, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, guys, it was a good meeting overall.
All right, that was a good meet. I love them kind of meetings. A lot of. Yeah, good 4-hour meeting. Ain't nothing like a good meeting.